Six perfect strangers are brought together for a diamond heist, but things go badly wrong. They rendezvous at the meet-up point to try to figure out who's alive, who's not, who has the stones, and who's the rat. Reservoir Dogs exploded onto the scene and changed independent cinema forever. It made stars out of its largely unknown cast and placed Quentin Tarantino as the saviour of modern movie making. My name is Luke, and I'm here with Westy.
I don't know who's dead. I don't know who's alive. I don't know who's caught. I don't know who's not.
And Matt.
You're not Mr. Purple. Some guy in some other job is Mr. Purple. You're Mr. Pink.
All the right movies are going to bark all day about Reservoir Dogs. Hi everyone, you're listening to All the Right Movies, a podcast on classic and hit films, full of iconic dialogue, some laughs, but hopefully no severed ears.
We'll see how it goes.
Today we're going back to the 90s as we talk about Quentin Tarantino's blistering directorial debut, Reservoir Dogs. Before we do that, I'll just check. Yeah, it's that time when we talk about Patreon again.
Oh, Patreon, yeah. I was thinking about that, actually. It's about time you updated us on that.
Luke, do we have one?
We do.
I think we do. Can you tell us more about it?
If you really want me to.
I think it'd be a great idea, yeah.
I know we talk about it on every episode, and you're probably out there listening thinking, oh, not this again. But if you are thinking that, then that must mean that you tune in regularly,
Yes.
which must mean you're a fan of the show.
Yes, obviously.
Right?
Yep.
Our Patreon episodes are just like these. It's the five of us talking about classic films, some laughs, some insights, facts and figures as well. You're bound to love it. There are 3 exclusive podcasts per month and access to our podcast archive. And there are currently around about just under 50 podcasts on there that aren't available elsewhere.
Nice.
So,
Wow.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gargantuan.
Any support you can offer will help us continue to bring these episodes to you and more. So if you could support us, we'd love that.
Yes, we certainly would, guys.
We sure would, guys.
Yeah, cough up, you cheap bastards. Go to patreon.com/alltherightmovies to sign up and to make us happy.
Please do.
Please, he's losing his temper now. Really offensive. Apologies, but, please give us some money.
It ties into the film. It's not just offence.
Yeah. Cough up, motherfuckers.
So, Matt, why do you want to talk about Reservoir Dogs?
Because, like him all over him, and that tends to be the extremes that people have with Tarantino, you can't deny that he is still such a massive voice in Hollywood. Every film he makes is an event, and considering he doesn't make like franchise films or superhero films, that's quite something. So for me, it makes perfect sense that we do go back to the beginning to see where it all started for him, because it's not like his debut was some kind of middling little indie effort either that you look at and you go, well, yeah, that was okay. You can see he had, a bit of talent at the beginning. Not like that at all. He arrived fully formed with this film. And the impact at the time, it was like somebody like coming up behind you and just setting off a handgun behind your head. It was like, where the fuck has that come from? Who is this guy? It was
amazing.
so fresh, it was so dynamic. And I think it's going to be really interesting to talk about it because we know now where his career went. So it's going to be really interesting to see where it stacks up against what he would later do. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, what about you, Westy?
Yeah, one of the first films that I really remember loving and thinking it was mine. Like, no one else gets this film like I get it. It was one of them very first ones. Got it on VHS, and I watched it that many times. It got to the point, when if you rent something on a Saturday and it has to go back on the Monday, my mum was like leaving for work on the Monday morning, and I was trying to get one more viewing in. And I remember it was before school, and it was about 7:30 in the morning. She was like, "I've got to take that tape back," and I was like, "I just need 5 more minutes to watch it again." And I remember just watching it again, and then I went to school and was like talking about it, and nobody else had seen it, and I just remember thinking, "Oh, it's just so cool," and it's like something I could always fall back on and go, well, have you seen Reservoir Dogs? Do you know what I mean? It was just a really cool statement. It was one of them things that just stuck, and I think when people see it now, even it's in its own time, isn't it? It hasn't even aged, or it's not a product of its time. It's just this timeless cinema experience, and it's one of the ultimate heist films and one of the ultimate dialogue-driven films, one of the best directed films I've seen. It ticks all the boxes for me. I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah, well, I was pretty much obsessed with Tarantino in the 90s, and this film was banned in the UK, but there was so much buzz around it and loads surrounding Tarantino as a filmmaker. I saw Pulp Fiction first and loved it, And when Reservoir Dogs was released in 1995, I bought the VHS, like you, Westy.
Yeah.
But I bought it came out in like a special package, like a box set. It came with like a Zippo lighter.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
A toothpick. I don't know who I was kidding, 15-year-old.
Walking around like a massive tosser. Look more like the Fonz than anyone else.
15-year-old child, what an idiot. I'd never seen anything or heard anything like it before, and very similar to Pulp Fiction, I watched it over and over, like for years and years, and then I didn't go back to it for at least 15 years because I just completely wore it out.
Really? Right, okay.
Looking at it in retrospect, it's really interesting to see where Tarantino started out and to see a lot of his hallmarks already there in his debut, like you said, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Reservoir Dogs was produced by Lawrence Bender for Live America Inc. and Dog Eat Dog Productions, distributed by Miramax Films and released on the 9th of October 1992. Filmed on location in LA, it was written and directed by Quentin Tarantino and stars Harvey Keitel, Steve Buscemi, Tim Roth, Michael Madsen, Chris Penn, Lawrence Tierney, and Eddie Bunker. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's go to work.
The beginning.
We're straight into it right from the off as a crew of conspicuously dressed heavies sit around drinking coffee, talking about pop music, tipping, and fucking Charlie Chan. Westy, what do you think of the opening scene?
It's amazing, isn't it? I just love it when over the titles then you just get that opening line. Let me tell you what Like a Virgin is about. It's about a girl who digs a guy with a big dick. The entire song is a metaphor for big dicks. Bang, and then you're in, and that camera just moves around.
Yeah, that camera works amazing.
He's not bothered about it either. It just goes pure black at times, and the whole screen, you just cannot say anything, and it's just moving around, and the blocking's amazing with how many people are talking, but you're never lost in it. The dialogue's just razor sharp, but it's what they're talking about. It's just really, really engaging, isn't it? It's really different, but at the same time very familiar. So I just loved it. It just pulls you into the world, and you kind of get everybody's personality just by what they're saying and how they're saying it. And there's lots of things in this. Like, it shows Mr. Orange is a grass because he grasses Mr. Pink up to Joe because he doesn't tip, and he's the one who tells him.
Yeah,
so
nice.
it kind of
Shut up.
it just sets the scene all the way through. You know that Keitel's kind of in charge. You know that Mr. Brown's full of shit. You know that, like... Mr. Blue's just like straight to the point. He's just not really going to take any shit. You know, Buscemi's going to be an absolute nightmare all the way through, just so finicky and to the point. And you know, Madsen's the hard man. You know, it's all in there. It shows a master at work.
Yeah, it does. None of this makes any difference to the plot. This
Not at all.
dialogue, in like the traditional narrative storytelling point of view. If it were any other director, I'd be thinking, like, who cares about like a Virgin or 70s Radio or tipping waitresses? Just get to the good stuff, get to the action.
Yeah.
And we don't even get to the action in the film.
No.
But what this does for me is sucks me right into these characters. They're total scumbags, but I'm drawn to them because they've got like funny or interesting or even outrageous things to say, magnetic, and I just want to hear more about them.
Yeah,
definitely.
Amazing stuff. What about you, Matt?
I think it's the most fitting thing I can think of that in Tarantino's first ever film, his voice is the first ever thing you hear.
Yeah.
Because that just sums him up, doesn't it? It's his voice, this is his story, his characters, and you are going to sit and listen to him, and that just sums him up for the rest of his career, basically. I mean, it's quite an egotistical thing to do, I suppose, giving himself this amazingly funny speech when he's surrounded by so many other, like, seasoned and veteran actors. But that just sums up the confidence that he has in himself, that he's going to give himself this speech. And do you know what Madonna's reaction to this was?
Yeah.
Yeah, should send him a copy of the Erotica album with a note that said, to Quentin, it's not about dick, it's about love, Madonna.
I bet he still disagrees. He's
I'm
like,
sure.
no,
No, it's not. Madonna's wrong.
no, it's not.
But it's like you guys saying, it just reveals a lot about each character individually, and it kind of starts to foreshadow events as well, so you can see everyone respects Joe, but you can tell that Mr. White is senior enough to give him a bit of shit, but not too much. He knows just how much to push him. When you see Blonde do that shooty finger thing, I think that's quite foreboding. I think that just lets you know kind of what he's going to be capable of. You can see Orange finds Mr. White really funny. You can see how cold-blooded Mr. Pink is already, because he's just so single-minded about that money rule, about no tipping. You know, and he's just quite ruthless about it.
I do agree with Mr. Pink. I'm on board with his theory, definitely.
I thought you were big. I love how Mr. Orange is by the end.
Yeah. Give me my dollar back.
Yeah, he's convinced me.
Mr. Orange has got his arm around Mr. White as well, which I noticed again, rewatching it, which is really nice to show how close they are, and they're almost like a pair.
But more than anything, I think even on repeat viewings, when you know what these men are going to do and what they're capable of, you still think they're really funny and they're fun, and you do want to hang out with them. And I think that's actually quite clever by Tarantino, because it starts to make you a little bit complicit in what they end up doing by making you really like these guys at the beginning. And I think by the end you do question that.
Fantastic. Well, you mentioned there, Matt, about Mr. Brown's dialogue here. There was this huge casting process of the film, and obviously we'll get onto that later on when we come to the actors. But one of the people who came in to read for it was Tom Waits, the singer.
Wow.
Which, I mean, that's amazing.
It would have been amazing. Eggs and sausages. That's what he would have ordered in the diner. Imagine that. You just hear, not it's just that opening title, you just hear Waits go, eggs and sausages. And then it cuts to the diner. That would be fucking unreal.
Tarantino said, I had Tom Waits read this Madonna speech just so I could hear Tom Waits say those lines.
Amazing.
And he was blown away because Waits said his words were like poetry. Coming from a poet himself, he was blown away by it.
Amazing.
And like you were saying, Matt, it's him who opens up the dialogue, but it was supposed to be Mr. Pink who was going to be delivering this Madonna speech, but obviously when Quentin cast himself, he did the old switcheroo.
Yeah, he wrote the part of Mr. Pink for himself, didn't he?
Yeah,
Which
that's
is
right.
why
Yeah.
Mr. Pink's probably got the best lines and has probably got the most meat of any character. And then Buscemi just made him change his mind. Amazing.
I love it when Blonde starts to talk about the night the lights went out in Georgia.
Yeah.
On the radio. Pink's starting to talk. I love that song. He goes to take a drink from his coffee cup and he looks, realises there's none there and looks for a waitress.
Yeah.
Lovely little detail. That.
Yeah, it's great.
Six times though. Fucking six cups of coffee. How long are they for? Must be like an hour and a half.
He'll be pissing like a racehorse.
I love it when White pops up and he's completely assured. You don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, pointing a spoon at him.
yeah. And it's a topic he obviously knows a lot about. He's really passionate about. And Pink's response, fuck all that.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Straight to the point. No, not having it.
Eddie Bunker's lines were rewritten just so he has lines in the film. So they were actually in there for him, and he delivers it really well, straight to the point.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah. Borderline. Once she got in that Papadome preach phase, I tuned out.
Yeah, it's like I like her early stuff.
I think that was like her first 2 years of her career. Papadome preach was a really early record for Madonna.
What did you do before that?
Mr. Blue is played by Eddie Bunker. It's well known now, but this guy was an ex-con.
Yeah.
His first prison bid was for theft, and he was like 14 at the time, and he was a career criminal up until he was 42, and he went straight and became an author and a screenwriter.
Yeah.
He wrote Straight Time, starring Hoffman, and Runaway Train, starring Voight and Eric Roberts.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, surprising stuff. Yeah. Being an ex-con, Bunker was critical of the film's plot. He called it unrealistic. He wasn't wild about the idea of a group of criminals all dressed in black suits at a busy restaurant before they pull a diamond heist. He said that just wouldn't happen, obviously.
Yeah. And he also said that you wouldn't work with like people you don't know really, really well. To that level.
That's right, yeah. And talking of that,
it's like, this is going to be a title sequence people are always going to talk about and always going to remember. And like I say, it's just so simple, but it just oozes effortless cool. And that takes me back to my point about the restaurant scene. It's quite sly of Tarantino to make everything seem so cool at the beginning, because obviously by the end of the film it's anything but.
It's a bloodbath.
Yeah. Brilliant. I mean, we'll bring this up as well, but everyone knows, well, maybe they don't, but this was based really heavily on City on Fire, which came out in 1987, starring Chow Yun-fat. I'm not saying based on, I'm saying stolen from. As Tarantino does really, really well. But that whole walk, that's in the film. So if anything comes up with a direct reference to that, I'll try and say, that's in there. But this is it's pretty much lifted exactly the same from it. Sunglasses, the group walking. But what he does, he does it so well, and we talked about this on the Pulp Fiction episode, he just lifts stuff that's just iconic, or could be iconic, and doesn't stick, and then just like lifts it up and elevates it and just goes, right, well, this is mine now. Fuck you. This is mine. That slow-mo walk is mine. He's lifted it from somewhere unabashedly and made it iconic, that's Quentin Tarantino, though, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a right sneaky bastard because he takes things that nobody knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Films that nobody's seen for 50 years.
Yeah. By the time the twig, it's far too late.
No, it's already iconic.
Yeah. Do you know what the original track was supposed to be, apart from Little Green Bag?
Shoot.
I don't.
Money by Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think would have been pretty good.
It's far too on the nose.
It is on the nose.
That would just stick out like a sore thumb based on the rest of the songs in the soundtrack. This huge Pink Floyd song.
It would have cost more than Steelers Wheel, I know that much. It would have been a fucking fortune for money.
Those suits, I mean, obviously super cool.
Yeah.
they aren't actually suits, or even black for that matter. The costume designer found a load of 60s style jackets that were dark colours, navy blue, grey and black, and put them together with black jeans and boots. And the DP, Andre Sekula, said that the dark colours would photograph as black on the screen. Risky move.
Risky move. And then Michael Madsen as well. So I haven't got any black shoes. That's why he wears cowboy boots, and that's where the razor comes from. So it was all just these guys adding to their own characters, which
just
I think
an evolving process.
Yeah, there's an individuality, fantastic, I think, with every character, and I think that Quentin Tarantino has allowed people to just say, right, who are you? Right, you're Mr. Orange. Right, go and invent him then. He's on the page, but bring more to it.
Following this scene, we're catapulted into Mr. White's car as he's trying to console Mr. Orange, who's taking a gut shot. They make it to the rendezvous point and Mr. Pink shows up, trying to act all professional. We get a glimpse at Mr. White pre-heist and Joe, the brains of the outfit. Next up for us is the scene where White and Pink end up in a tussle before Mr. Blonde shows up at the warehouse. Yeah, Matt, I bet you're a big Lee Marvin fan, right?
Love the guy.
What do you think of this?
Oh, I think it's great. I think if you don't know by now that Tarantino is a director who's going to make you listen as much as he's going to make you watch, then I think this scene absolutely tells you that, because there's only like a brief cutaway to the aftermath of the heist to the action. The rest of it is just in the dialogue. But it doesn't matter, you're still completely hooked into it. The way it's described, the way they're delivering those lines, it's just as fascinating hearing about this action than it would be seeing it. And I think part of that is because of how Sekula shot it. I know that he did use a film stock that was normally used for daylight, because it really made the colours pop. So by using for these in TV scenes, they're just more visually interesting look at. So Tarantino knew he could hold all those wide shots and he wouldn't have to keep cutting away. So he could build the tension just by holding White and Pink in these long shots together.
Yeah. Fantastic.
But I think what's really fascinating is how all the dialogue now starts to contrast to the diner scene. You know, in that diner scene, it's funny, it's flippant, it's just about pop music, and now they're talking about killing people.
Everybody's having a great time, yeah.
Yeah, nobody's having a great time now. And the way they differentiate between killing people and killing cops.
Yeah.
When he makes
no real people.
No real people.
No real people. You're like, that's a really chilling line when you think about it. It's like, right, fucking hell, these guys mean business. And I think it just ups the intrigue as to what's going on by an incredible amount. So you're thinking, where's everyone else? You know, what exactly did Mr. Blonde do? Because we're only hearing about it.
Yeah.
You know, how did it all go so badly wrong? And is there a rat? So it just sets up all the potential conflict that's still to come.
Yeah. Hilarious when Pink's on the ground and White's giving them some little kicks.
Yeah.
Tiny little kicks. Yeah. What do you think about this, Westy?
I love it. The camera work in this whole sequence is fucking phenomenal. It reminds me of Michael Chapman's work in Taxi Driver. It's
Lovely.
Like it's on a par with that. The way the camera just holds down that corridor, the way you see a toilet seat and then it just pans up and moves across, and then you see them at the bottom of the corridor. And I love the fact that the whole place used to be a mortuary, which again just has this real overshadowing. They're in the operation room and they're trying to dissect it in a room where bodies would have been dissected or autopsies would have been. That's where they're trying to figure out what's going on. And then you go outside and then you've got Mr. Blonde standing against a coffin or standing next to coffins, which shows his personality, sitting on a hearse at one point.
On a hearse,
it's all in there and it's just so thick. But then again, you just look at it, anyone else looks at it and it's just, oh well, yeah, it's a really interesting setting, it's visually interesting, looks like a warehouse, whatever. But he takes all these elements and adds to it. When Pink's on the floor and White's over the top of him, that shot is just iconic. It's just brilliantly done. Just the body language, just the way that they're set up in that frame. But just start pulling back. It can't get any better. It can't get any better. Oh, there's Mr. Blonde. Fuck me, that's better. It's like, how did he do that?
It reminds me of the shot in The Shining, where Wendy's at the desk and the camera pulls out to reveal Jack behind.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really reminds us of that.
The only thing that really puts me out of it a little bit is that when you go to that wide shot and you've got Pink and White talking and he gives him a cigarette and he lights his cigarette and he just does that click for ages.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Obviously it's what Tarantino wants him to do, but he doesn't.
And why doesn't he light it?
That's what I'm getting at. Why doesn't he light his cigarette? Because I think
he goes to and then doesn't.
And I thought it was going to be because he thought it was a wide shot, but I'm pretty sure this would just be a one-camera setup, so he knows where the camera is. So it's whether he lights Pink's to calm him down, then doesn't light his, because he lights one later. I don't know.
A couple of minutes later.
But you know what? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, doesn't. We're still talking about it.
Well, exactly.
I love the tales of Blonde in the store that tell this about this absolutely crazy madman, unpredictable like a coiled spring, could go off at any moment. That's what we're told, and then he shows up. He's the coolest customer in the world when we're first introduced to him, and it's really funny. He says, "Heart's beating so fast, I'm about to have a heart attack here." Yeah. And he's like the most chilled out person I've ever seen in my life. Yeah.
Everyone else looks really fucked, and he just looks amazing.
He does.
Obviously slaughtered about, what, I would say 7, 8 people, the way they've been talking.
Bam.
It's just an absolute
Bam.
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 Yeah, bam,
Bam.
bam, bam, bam. It's been absolutely brilliant. So he's just slaughtered 8 people, and then he's just gone to what's obviously Big Kahuna Burger, and just got fries and a Coke. Amazing.
It's fantastic.
Nobody actually knows what White whispers to Mr. Pink before he brings the comb out and starts brushing his hair. But but it is subtitled in different releases, in the international releases. So in the Italian version, for example, it says, "Do you want me to give you a hand job too?" Which I think is quite good. It's quite funny. And then in the French version, it's like, "You don't want a blow job, by the way." Which again, are these just people trying to be Tarantino? And then the Spanish version, "I'll comb your hair so you look handsome."
Isn't that nice?
It's not lovely. Love that.
I love how absolutely crazy Mr. White is, losing his mind at Mr. Blonde. "You nearly shot me!
Yeah.
Asshole!"
Fucking brilliant. What I really like as well, it's Pink's flashback to when he's running along the street.
Oh, yeah.
The cops are chasing him, and he comes around the corner, and that camera move is, I mean, you know me, I love camera angles. So that camera move that sweeps around the back, and he starts shooting, and it just pushes really close into him, and then it cuts to the front shot. That's so well edited. It's so well done. It's just really, really engaging. I love that flashback sequence. I think it's fucking brilliant.
So laying the groundwork for the next 30 years in movies. In the opening scenes, Tarantino gives us iconic dialogue, cool characters, and forgotten music gems. More of the same, please.
Yep.
The director.
The director of Reservoir Dogs is, of course, the one and only Quentin Tarantino in his official directorial debut. We've talked about him on our Pulp Fiction and True Romance episodes generally, so go back and check those out. Peter Bogdanovich called him the single most influential director of his generation.
Right.
Matt, what do you think of Tarantino's work on Reservoir Dogs?
I think it's excellent. I wish I had the confidence for anything in life that he's got for his debut film here, because he's just so assured, and it's incredible. He's working with actors who he's clearly admired for years and years, but he doesn't seem overawed by them at all. He's super focused on what this story is and the way that he just takes you from scene to scene and backwards and forwards in this storyline. It's always so clear where he's taking you. He's just demonstrating this like complete mastery of a story already, and he's clearly working in a genre that he knows inside out, and so he's like a kid in a playground, and that's why everything, I think, has this energy, because you can tell that he loves directing actors. You can tell that he loves taking dialogue off the page and putting it on screen. He's demonstrating that he can shoot action, but he's also demonstrating he can make you really, really laugh. And so what he's done with this film is he's constructed something where basically he can show off everything he's capable of in one film. And he's got the confidence to pull it off, and that's why it's so exciting. He's just demonstrating like a mastery of so many techniques, how to move the camera, how to edit, how to interweave a narrative, how to layer a soundtrack over the top of it, and how to bring it all together. And it's all just so tightly focused and so confident. And I know one thing he wasn't that confident about was he did say he was going to need a DP who knew how to do lighting, because that was just one area he was just not sure about. But he said, the one thing I knew how to do, particularly for this film, is how to frame it. And I think you can tell that it's just so well framed. I mean, just the way he frames all the actors as well, and all these long dialogue scenes, it's just so visually interesting. So for a debut, it's just incredibly confident, incredibly assured, and he just knew what he was doing.
It's an embarrassment of riches, isn't it? It's incredible.
It really is.
It is weird for me because QT, completely one of a kind. It never been anyone like him before or since. But like you've said, Westy, if you look at all the inspiration he takes from other films, his work could be seen as just a patchwork of everything that's gone before him. So,
could be.
You mentioned City on Fire. That includes a diamond heist, an undercover cop, a warehouse setting, and a Mexican standoff.
Yeah.
I mean, if you said that to me, that's Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah. But then you've got the heist element was inspired by The Killing, Stanley Kubrick's film, and a film called Kansas City Confidential. Mm-hmm. Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3, the bad guys in that film have colour-coded names.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the torture scene was informed by Django from 66 and the Big Combo from 55. So all of these elements, and those are films not many people have even heard of, let alone seen.
Exactly.
But it takes style and it takes ability to be able to take these influences and make them work. For me, I don't think it's his most assured film. I think that's Pulp Fiction. Mm-hmm. And it sometimes feels a little bit like the dialogue's a little bit stagey in this for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for a debut film, I mean, I just a round of applause. God bless him. Well done, Tarantino, because...
Well done, mate.
Well done.
God bless him. God bless his little heart.
Because this film made such an impact for me when I was a kid. Like you were saying, Westy, this really, really felt important to me. And I was completely obsessed by the film. It's a remarkable performance by Tarantino.
Yeah.
What about you, Westy? You like his work?
I think this is all right, isn't it? I've seen it before.
Yeah, it's all right. I'll do.
It's the vibrancy in this. Just the sign of someone who's done the homework. You know, if you've ever gone into an exam, but you fucking know your homework.
Yeah.
I'm confident about it. And you go in and you're just ticking them and you're like, fucking yes, I'm going to get an A star here. This is not a problem. Boom, boom, boom. That's how this feels. He's got his references. He knows that they're cool. He knows it's going to work. He knows he can't fuck this up because he's just so confident with what he's done. It's on the page. To me, I was trying to think for this because we've spoken about Tarantino loads, and we've done the Pulp Fiction episode, and we've discussed it, you know, personally away from this. Like, we always talk about Quentin Tarantino. I'm just trying to think, well, how do I sum him up? And I came up with this theory. Well, it's not a theory.
Oh,
but like,
wonderful.
Well, it's not a
Of
theory.
course
It's
you
just,
did.
Shall we settle in for this, Westy?
it's more of a metaphor. But
Okay. Oh, of course it is.
like, imagine he's a bartender, right? And he's got all of these different drinks behind him. And all of these drinks are all of his inspirations, all the films that he's seen. And it's drinks you've never heard of. And individually, they taste great as shots. But what he does, he takes the most obscure drinks off that shelf, puts it in a high, tall glass right in front of you, puts ice in it, and starts mixing these drinks. And then sticks a little umbrella in the top, and then gives you a red apple cigarette and goes, have a taste of that. And you taste it, and it's kind of familiar, and you know what all the layers are. You kind of know where all the tastes are, but you've never, ever, ever had that combination before, and that's Tarantino.
Wonderful. Well, when he does his 10th film, then we know what his next profession is. Bartender.
Bartender.
We talked about QT's amateur debut as a filmmaker, My Best Friend's Birthday, on our True Romance episode. But there are a couple of interesting movie and TV credits that he had in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
He had a credit as a production assistant on Dolph Lundgren's workout video in 1986.
Of course he did.
Production assistant is basically him sweeping dog shit up from the parking lot so Dolph wouldn't get his trainers dirty.
We certainly wasn't lifting weights with him, was he?
In 1988, he appeared as an Elvis impersonator in an episode of The Golden Girls.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, and the residual checks from that helped fund him writing Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
He's also credited as an associate producer on a film called Past Midnight from 91, starring Rutger Hauer and Clancy Brown. He did some script rewrites and got that credit, associate producer. So he's got a bit of a checkered past, but frustrated he was working at Video Archives, frustrated at working there and having success with My Best Friend's Birthday that was destroyed in a fire. He started writing scripts and he bought a notebook and pens because he said you can't write poetry on a computer.
Yeah.
Westy, you take that stance, don't you? All your notes for these episodes are pen and paper.
They're all handwritten, yeah.
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 It's just easy. I can take it with us, then I can, you know, if I think of anything, I'll just write it down. Really old-fashioned like that, but he's right. It's like, he said that was like the power of God coming down through his pen and just getting everything on the page. Is what Michael Madsen said. He's like, you can't write this on a computer. It needs to be there on the page.
So Tarantino written Reservoir Dogs and gave it to his pal Lawrence Bender, and they were going to produce it themselves. They were looking for finance, and they got a few bizarre offers. One producer offered them $1.6 million if the ending was changed and that everybody came back to life who was dead and the whole thing had been a hoax all along. What? It sounds like Lost or something.
It sounds dreadful.
Sounds ridiculous.
That's what it sounds like.
That sounds like the piss take ending of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. You know, everyone who's been killed comes back in the hut, like Abraham Lincoln comes walking in. That sounds like that.
Another one offered $500,000, but only if his girlfriend was cast as Mr. Blonde.
Doesn't work, does it?
Tarantino actually considered that.
Of course he did.
As an option. Yeah. He set about making the film with a 16mm camera and $30,000 that they'd scraped together.
Yeah.
He went to a screenplay workshop put together by the Sundance Institute in 1991, and one of the judges was Monty Hellman, who was an executive producer on the film. He was going to direct it for a spell. Mm-hmm. Another judge on there was Terry Gilliam, who gave him this advice when he asked how to bring his vision to life. He said, "You have to understand, as a director, you don't have to do that. Your job is to hire talented people who can do that for you. Your job is articulating to the cinematographer and costume designer what you want on the screen." And he said, this just came like a bolt of lightning. This mystical shaman thing that I thought directing was just went boom.
I think what that did was take a lot of responsibility away from him, and it makes it more fun than it is. Like, I've got to learn how to light, or I've got to learn how to load film stock, or I've got to learn, you know, what's going to look good on screen costume-wise. He was maybe thinking about absolutely every single aspect of filmmaking. And once Gilliam just said, look, let go. Just do your vision.
Get other people to do that.
Yeah, someone else is going to specialise in that, and that's filmmaking isn't it? It's a collective.
Yeah, of course. Collaboration.
I think that's why he does handwrite it, because then it feels personal, it feels like it's his. And it's really strange that he doesn't use a computer for the amount that he does copy and fucking paste. But but he does it by hand, so it feels legitimate.
As we said, Tarantino was originally going to pay Mr. Pink. Lawrence Bender was going to be Nice Guy Eddie, and he was going to get some of his buddies to fill out the rest of the cast. But that was until he came home to an answer machine message from the one and only Harvey Keitel, who said that he loved the screenplay. I just want to be involved in it. So he was able to bring loads of credibility to the production. He helped financially, and it boosted the budget from 30,000 to 1.2 million.
Amazing.
I mean, that's an amateur film that Tarantino is going to be making, and now it's a big production, or relatively big production. Keitel became aware of the script because Lawrence Bender gave the script to his acting coach, who gave it to his ex-wife, who knew Harvey Keitel.
It's not what you know sometimes. So no Keitel, no QT.
That's
I don't think he would have made as much of an impact with trying to shoot this on 16mm. I don't think he would have got Secular. I don't think he would have got...
Definitely not. He wouldn't have had any...
He wouldn't have had anybody. Just be him and his mates.
No. Obviously, the key component of any self-respecting heist flick is the heist itself, which is missing from this one. Because of its low budget, some corners had to be cut, and the heist in the film is shown off-screen. We see some of the action beforehand, and courtesy of flashbacks, we see some of the immediate aftermath. And on this, Tarantino said, at one point the reason for not showing the heist might have been budgetary, but I always liked the idea of never seeing it, and I kept that. Although it's not exactly Rashomon, you do get the sense of characters' different perspectives when they talk about what happened. For the first half, you wonder if you'll ever see the heist, and in the second, you realise the movie's not about that, it's about other things.
Yeah. And the thing is, as well, if you make the heist off camera and you get people to talk about it, I know exactly what happened at the heist. It's in my head. I've seen it. I know what the camera shots look like. I know people's reactions because of the dialogue. And I think you can make that heist now seem really elaborate, massive. You don't need budget for that. You just need imagination. And I think that's where he's genius.
I agree.
I mean, that detail when White and Pink are talking about, and he says, how old do you think that black girl was? 21 at most.
Maybe 21.
Yeah. Maybe 20.
If that to me, that just sticks in my head.
Yeah.
Just that little detail. And you think, you know what, you don't need to see anything, because that alone just tells you all you need to know. And the thing is, as well, you can tell because Pink and White are appalled by it.
Yeah.
That tells you all you need to know.
Exactly.
If they were appalled by what
I don't want to see it.
You don't want to see it. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's an unusual name for a film, Reservoir Dogs. Do you know anything about how it came about?
There's a couple of theories.
Yeah? Shoot.
No. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not doing it.
What, a theory you're not going to go into? This is a first.
This is amazing. Well, Tarantino told potential investors that a Reservoir Dog was gangster slang for French New Wave films like A Band Apart, and it meant rat. It didn't, but he knew that it would sound cool and that they wouldn't be familiar with the films that he was referencing. They weren't going to check. The origin of it, there's a few different sources. Firstly, the most popular story is that when Quentin was working at Video Archives, he recommended this Louis Malle film from 1987. It's called, I'll try and get this right.
Go for it.
Au revoir les enfants.
Amazing. Les incompetents. Good job he hadn't seen Home Alone. He would have been called like the Incompetents.
So he said this to a customer who apparently misheard it and thought he'd said Reservoir Dogs. Don't know how. They don't sound anything alike.
Definitely not.
No.
Particularly the way that I said it. Well, maybe I'm saying it wrong.
No, I think you said it with such grand beauty that I don't think anyone would mistake it for anything else apart from exactly what it was.
Okay, yeah.
You're welcome.
It's claimed that this film wasn't in the store at the time QT worked there. And another theory is it's a hybrid of that film that I've just pronounced and I'm not going to try again.
Okay.
And Straw Dogs. I suppose the only thing that matters is that the title's cool and eye-catching, and this definitely is.
Yeah. All really interesting, but again, I think they're all quite far-fetched. It just sounds cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, really are.
Sounds cool.
It sounds great.
That's it.
And we've got a question here from one of our patrons, and that's part of the benefit of being an ATRM patron. You can ask us questions, we'll answer them on the show. So, our first one is from James Ozzie Pugh.
Hello, James.
What up, James? He asks, can you think of a directorial debut which made a bigger impact on cinema than Tarantino did with Reservoir Dogs? Westy?
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Yes, there's a few. Can I go first? Am I going to steal all the thunder here?
Possibly.
You can go first.
Well, first of all, I think Pulp Fiction made more of an impact on cinema than Reservoir Dogs did. I think it was largely ignored in the States, and it only kind of got attention when it came out over here, and we went absolutely mental for it in Britain. It just absolutely went crazy. But for me, I would say Citizen Kane probably is the ultimate. I would say 12 Angry Men's up there. I would say the Maltese Falcon's up there, and I would say for me personally, Night of the Living Dead. I don't think that's made more of an impact, I think, than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Reservoir Dogs is undeniably influential, but for me, it kind of influential almost in a bad way, because after this film came out, there was so many kind of rip-offs by people who just didn't have Tarantino's talent. You know, you couldn't move for like American crime indie films, could you, with pop culture dialogue that just didn't have anything near like the energy or the wit of this one. But other debuts that I think it just has, or even more influential, apart from ones Westy's mentioned, I mean, Rob Reiner, This is Spinal Tap, influenced comedy forever.
Yeah, very good.
You've got to have that one in there. John Lasseter, Toy Story, look how that's influenced animation ever since, completely revolutionised what we expect from animated films. So even if that's not your particular genre, you can't deny how influential that one is. And I would even mention Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez for the Blair Witch Project.
Right.
When that came along.
Yeah, I mean, we're still watching found footage horror films now.
Yeah. Out of all the episodes as well, I would never have guessed that you'd managed to shoehorn Pixar into Reservoir Dogs, but you have. How the fuck
Matt.
did you do that?
Oh, when I saw this question, I was like, yes, finally, get John Lasseter in there.
We'll get to the torture scene. He's got 3 or 4 references to Finding Nemo. Like, what the fuck?
I'm pretty much the same as you fellas. It got me thinking about the great directorial debuts, and actually I was going to ask, is this the best directorial debut, or is it up there, before James came in with this question. And the ones that sprung to mind immediately, it was Sidney Lumet and 12 Angry Men that I thought of.
Yeah.
I thought about the Coens and Blood Simple.
Yeah.
I thought about Sam Raimi and The Evil Dead. But yeah, the granddaddy of them all is Orson Welles' Citizen Kane.
Yeah, it has to be, doesn't it?
It was well received, it didn't recoup its money at the time, and it didn't get re-evaluated until the 50s, around 15 years later. So I think we're only looking at that in retrospect.
Maybe, yeah.
I think Tarantino's debut, the fact that he followed it up with an even better film, those two as a package really did have an impact on the industry. And I think that he did change the way people approach movies, the way they were made, the written, marketed, the way they used music in the film as well. I think that was a big shift. And I think he changed the tropes a lot, structure and what mainstream audience expected in films, those did change as well. And this being my era, I was in the thick of that, and I got swept up with buying like screenplays of movies I'd already seen. Who used to do that? Nobody would do that before Tarantino. What fucking idiot? But then they're on the top seller charts.
Yeah, amazing. This introduced Quentin Tarantino, and Quentin Tarantino made an incredible impact on cinema, but not necessarily this film.
Yeah.
So with Quentin Tarantino, young hungry filmmaker bringing his A game to his directorial debut.
A raw talent, Quentin Tarantino, if you will.
Lovely.
Thank you. Another 3 or 4 days on that one.
The cast.
The cast list in Reservoir Dogs is limited, there are only 24 credited cast members, and 5 of them are voices on the radio.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the man who made it all happen firstly, that is Harvey Keitel as Mr. White. Westy, what do you think of Mr. White and Keitel?
He's seasoned, he knows what he's doing, everyone feeds off him. You totally believe that he is that guy.
Yeah, you definitely do.
Yeah.
It's not him necessarily playing a character, even though it is, but I don't think... I mean, he's amazing in Taxi Driver. He's amazing in Sister Act. Brilliant bad lieutenant, The Duelists, Mean Streets. I mean, you go on, but it seems like he's just got such an affection for the film, such an affection for the material, such a love for the character and every single character and the craft of filmmaking. He's got such belief in Tarantino and he buys into it. I think Tarantino uses him as that vessel to get that across to the audience about how confident this is, how solid this is. And apart from Winston Wolfe, I think this is probably my favourite Keitel performance. I think he absolutely nails it from the start. You're with him every single up and down. You're heartbroken by it. You're disgusted by him. You're on his side, then you're not. He's just the audience, I think, and I think he carries it really, really well. He has that weight on his shoulders, but them shoulders can take the weight easily.
I think we get the sense that he's like a good guy right at the start, really compassionate about Orange's plight.
Good morals.
Good morals. He's like a sensitive fella. You do the right thing. But this is all blown away with that double gun takedown of the 2 cops near the end.
Yeah.
And we would know this straight away if the film was structured in the traditional way, but we only get this right at the end of the film. And like a lot of the characters, he seems like a good guy, stand-up guy, but he's ruthless.
Yeah.
And he says the choice between doing 10 years and taking out some motherfucker in, or choice at all. And we see that played out at the end. Love that. Love that about the character.
Fantastic. It's how he uses that narrative as well and reinforces the characters later on.
Yeah,
excellent.
Brilliant. And I mean, it's Harvey Keitel. You can't go wrong. He's heavyweight. Yeah. And this film kind of brought him back into focus after like a bad 80s. I mean, he was Razzie nominated for his role as Judas Iscariot in The Last Temptation of Christ, which I think is slightly harsh.
That is
but
slightly
he didn't
harsh.
have a good 80s.
Yeah. Did you think he knew that this was going to bring him back? Did he see that in the script? And he's almost invested in himself, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he pushed this, he pushed the budget up, he paid for casting in New York.
Yeah.
So he's obviously 100% behind the script and he firmly believes in it.
Yeah. I mean, if you've had a bad decade and this falls into your lap and you know you can get it for cheap, you're going to do everything you can to make it happen.
Yeah. And then after this, the year later, Bad Lieutenant. Boom.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I mean, that's some choice to make, isn't it? Wasn't Sister Act around the same time?
93, wasn't it?
93, so the year after. So the year after he did Sister Act and Bad Lieutenant.
The man has range, what can you say?
Some range.
I really love it when he's in the car with Nice Guy in orange and pink and he's having a whale of a time with this story that Nice Guy's telling, like the "You're Under Arrest" Sugar one, and he's just pissing himself laughing.
Yeah.
You love that line, don't you?
Oh, "You're under arrest, sugar." It's brilliant.
Say it all the time. You sneak it up on people.
Yeah. When Nice Guy's telling the story involving the glue and the stomach and the thing, and White says, "Was he all pissed off?" Really funny, that.
Yeah. You may have every time you needed to take a piss, you had to do a handstand. Brilliant.
He's really chuckling. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
What do you think of him, Matt?
Yeah, he's great casting because, like, before this, I would always associate Keitel as more of a supporting actor to sort of see him take like front and centre. It's really great because he does have the ability to carry the film and give it, as Westy says, that weight that it does need as that kind of dependable guy at the heart of it, really. And you know for a fact that he would have been one of like Tarantino's favourite actors because he loves that like tough guy actor. But I think what's really interesting is all these like little notes of vulnerability that I think Keitel brings in, and you see particularly with those scenes with Orange after he's been shot, the way he's stroking his hair, how tender he is with him. He's talking to him like he's a child when he's going, "He's a tough guy. He's a tough
You're
guy.
gonna be okay. Say the goddamn words."
You know, but you can sense the panic in his voice at the same time. You know, the situation's got out of control and even he doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And in the end, he's devastated to find out that he is the cop. You know, and you totally get that out of Keitel's performance. You can see, like, he feels betrayed by him. And I think Keitel just hits all those notes really, really well. But the other thing I find interesting about White as a character, though, I think he's a man who's just slightly out of time now. You know, he's older than most of the other dogs. Yeah. And he started to get a little bit sentimental. He's thinking with his heart and not his head, the way that he goes all in on protecting
soft.
Orange. Yeah, exactly. He's gone soft, and you see that. He's gone all in on protecting Orange over absolutely everything else. Whereas I think, even though he will still kill without hesitation, he still gets it completely wrong at the end, like who he stands by. And whereas if he had used his head and he thought logically about it, he could have quite possibly got away with his life. So he started to go a little bit soft, and I think casting Keitel as someone like that is really interesting. This film was used by a psychology professor to illustrate the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. And the professor said, well, a sociopath is someone who has a moral code, who knows right from wrong, but will still kill if they need to, and that's Mr. Right, whereas a psychopath is someone who doesn't have any moral code and will kill even when it doesn't need to be done, just for the hell of it, and that's Mr. Blonde.
Nice.
And then find justification through it as well. Like, they got what they deserved. They set the alarm off. That's it. You know, fuck them.
Yeah. When Tarantino went to Keitel's house to discuss the film when he was first on board, Keitel was interested to know how he came to write it and how he came up with the story. He asked, did he live in some kind of like tough guy neighbourhood, or were your family connected, that kind of thing? Tarantino said, no. And he said, well, how the hell did you come to write this? And QT's response, I watch movies.
I've seen City on Fire.
And no one else has.
Yeah. Give it 10 years.
Yeah.
Keitel's name brought a load of cachet immediately. They did a casting session in LA for 2 weeks, and then he suggested going out to New York to do some casting there, and Tarantino didn't want to because he didn't have the budget. So Keitel stumped up the money. What a guy.
Lovely.
Yeah.
The New York casting sessions picked up Michael Madsen, Tim Roth, G. Buscemi, and there was a whole host of unbelievable names that cropped up in this casting session. We mentioned Tom Waits already.
Yeah.
Have you heard about any others?
The script was sent to James Woods, and his agent turned it down. And he found this out later when he was talking to Tarantino when they'd met. And Tarantino was like, I want to do for Reservoir Dogs. He's like, what? He said, yeah, your agent rejected the script, so he fired his agent that night. Amazing.
Jimmy Woods, I'd love to see him in this.
He would have been great. As Pink, he would have been amazing.
Yeah. I mean, apparently he's a bit of a dickhead, but I do like him as an actor.
Aren't we all?
Speak for yourself.
I just have.
Have you heard any of these names, Matt?
I don't know if it's from this audition, but I know Clooney went up for Mr. White, didn't he? No,
Clooney
sorry, Mr.
was
Blonde.
in there.
Yeah.
Clooney, yeah.
So Clooney was in there, Christopher Walken, Seymour Cassell, Viggo Mortensen, and David Duchovny, who was told by QT, I like what you do, I just don't know if I want to do it in my movie.
Is he hunting aliens or something?
I think that he didn't like what he did, and that was his letting down gently approach.
Yeah, real backhanded compliment.
In this.
Yeah, I like what you do, but what you do is shit.
In other things, I like what you do.
Well, not in my stuff. You're not good enough for me, but, you know, you're fine in the X-Files.
TV and that, Red Shoe Diaries.
Yeah, Red Shoe Diaries. You know, you're a sex addict. Get on with that.
Samuel L. Jackson and Ving Rhames were in the frame to play Hold Away the Copper in Orange's flashbacks.
Yeah.
Robert Forster auditioned for the part of Joe. Obviously, Tarantino cast him in Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
Matt Dillon for Mr. Blonde.
Right.
Nick Cage for Nice Guy Eddie.
Amazing.
And you might have liked this, Westy. Vincent Gallo for Mr. Pink.
Oh, I would love Gallo in there. He would have been horrible, though. Like, really sleazy.
Yeah.
And Dennis Hopper and Tom Sizemore were in the frame to play Mr. Pink as well. That could have been a completely different film.
Oh, totally different, yeah.
The man who got the gig as the professional Mr. Pink is Steve Buscemi. Matt, what do you think of Buscemi in this?
It's my favourite performance.
He's great.
Oh, he is great. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, he is my favourite performance in the film. And he...
Just speaking for Matt there.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, before you say anything, he's fucking great. All right, let me tell you.
Yeah, all right, Luke. I was going to say that.
I don't want to influence you, but he is great.
I wasn't going to slag him off.
Go.
Here's my opinion. Okay.
Yeah. No,
Matt, we might as well just go. Luke, you just tell everyone to come back.
If you could just say these lines that I'm holding up. To the letter.
No, go on, Matt. Whatever you think of Buscemi, go.
Well, he's shit, isn't he? No, he's not.
Cut!
You're out of there. No, he's my favourite performance in the film, possibly even Tarantino's favourite, since how, we've already mentioned this, Tarantino did want Mr. Pink for himself, and he told Buscemi, "You're going to have to deliver a killer audition to get it away from me," which he obviously did, and rightly so. I can't imagine Tarantino doing this and bringing what Buscemi does, because he's always the smartest person in the room, and you see that right from the beginning in that restaurant scene where everybody is talking about the tipping, and he cuts through it all. He cuts through all the sentiment. He cuts through all this soft-hearted, we should feel sorry for them. And he's like, no, we shouldn't. She wasn't good enough, and it's not my responsibility. Yeah, and that just sums up.
Here.
That just sums up his character and you so brilliantly. But what's really interesting, though, is that he's clever enough to know to take his ego out of it once he starts to see that Joe is getting annoyed by it. He's like, okay, fine, I'll do it, because he doesn't have that alpha male ego to him, because he knows it's not going to be useful to him to be like that. So he's also thinking really, really rationally and really logically. That's probably why he is the one who got the diamonds and stashed them. And you see it in the warehouse. As soon as he comes in, he's the one who knows there's been a setup. He knows there's a rat. Mr. White is kind of like bouncing off the walls about it. Pink is the one trying to calm him down and get him to think and to focus. And you get that line where he says, all right, now you're using your fucking head. Yeah. Because throughout the film, he is pretty much the only one doing that. And I love the bit when White and Blonde sort of square up to each other and Pink is in the background. You can see he's just rolling his eyes.
Yeah, he's like, guys.
Yeah, these fucking arseholes. No one is thinking straight. And I just love that. And he's also, I think he's probably the funniest character in the film as well. Definitely. So as much as he is still like a bit of a bastard, I do kind of like the way he does get away at the end. Or does he?
Well, we'll ask. We'll ask later. We'll find out later, maybe.
We will. Yep.
Luke will just tell you.
Yeah. Good words there, Matt. Well done.
Did I read them okay?
Very well done, yeah.
Okay, thank
you. Very articulate. Emailed them last night, didn't he? Yeah, again, I mean, there's nothing else I could say that's different to what Matt said or probably what you're going to say, Luke. I think he is fantastic in this. I love Buscemi anyway. I don't think I've seen a bad performance in anything that he's been in. Lebowski, even Con Air, he's great in that. Trees Lounge is brilliant. Fargo's amazing. He's in Dead Man as well, which is one of my favourite films. This, he brings a real intelligence to the script. Words on the page, but he just delivers them with such belief. I think he gives the character a massive believability, and he's got a physicality as well that you wouldn't expect from Buscemi. Like when he's running down the street, it's kind of you don't recognise it. He just transforms into that character. But again, like I said at the top, I do think this character has a lot to do with Steve Buscemi's natural character. I think he brings a lot of who he is to the role, and he's perfect. He's absolutely perfect as Mr. Pink, and I think if anyone else had been in there, it would have been a very, very different film, a very, very different feel. I don't think anyone else could have done it quite as well as he's done it here.
Yeah, I totally agree. The character of Mr. Pink, he has got a moral compass. Yeah. He says himself that he was thinking of just driving off because it's a setup. He's got the diamonds. So he could have been out there with the stones, which he gives up to nice guy later. So again, he seems like this good guy, but he is a killer just like the rest of them. And a cop killer no less, which we see in flashbacks. And like you mentioned, Matt, he talks about that as if it's nothing, as if they're not even humans, which is, I mean, abhorrent. This is the standout performance for me in the film. Yeah. It's Buscemi's energy, and I think that everybody in the cast would feed off that, like you've been saying, Westy.
Yeah.
I think he just radiates, and he just makes the screen come alive. He's fantastic. This film made him what he is. I mean, gave him a career, essentially. Yeah. And I think, although he has got loads of nuances and he's got some good range, I think he's been playing a variation of this character ever since.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
I think these two that we're talking about here, Keitel and Buscemi, are the standout performers, definitely. Yeah. And I like the contrast between the two. I think it's funny when they've got the cop and they're beating him up. Pink goes to hit him and he hurts his hand.
Yeah.
And White doesn't.
It's like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so before we wrap the cast list up, we have one final question on the cast from Sharif Ahmed, one of our patrons.
Hello, Sharif.
Hello, Sharif.
Big question, this.
Yeah, big one. Here it comes. Which Mister would each ATRM member be? Now, we're going to go all five of us here. So, Westy, are you going to answer this for us?
I'm not going to be just the only one answering it, right? Everyone's going to have a bash.
No, everybody's going to... But you can go first.
Fair enough. I've omitted one of the misters because I didn't think it worked. So I've got, in reverse, I've got P.I. as Mr. Blonde, obviously, because he's a psychopath. And I've got John as Mr.
Harsh.
Well, he is, isn't he? He's a nutcase, but a lovable nutcase. So I would put him down as blonde. Plus, he's pretty cool, and I don't like to admit that, but he is.
Saved there, nice save.
Thanks. I've got John as Mr. Pink because he is the voice of reason, isn't he? Really, he's just straight down the line. He knows what his goals are, and he tries to achieve them as quickly as possible.
Right. Okay.
And now we're down to you guys, right? So you're excited. Luke, I've got you down as nice guy, Eddie.
You're having a laugh, aren't you?
Now, straight in there, driving around, listening to 70s tunes with a massive Samsung phone, just turning up, everyone having a laugh, you barging in, just going, out of the fucking blue, giving everyone big legs. Definitely nice guy, Eddie. Matt, I've got you as Mr. Orange because you're new to the crew and I don't really trust you necessarily, so you might be a rat.
Fair point.
And I'm down as Mr. Brown because I would definitely sit there in the restaurant and say, let me tell you what Like a Virgin's about. Loads of theories, loads of analogies, and a pain in the arse, and probably dies early. That's my rundown.
Fantastic. Okay. What about you, Matt?
Some of these we share, actually. Westy is 100% Mr. Brown.
Yeah, terrible
absolutely. And it is because of the endless theories.
Yeah.
You know, before we started this, Westy was like, lads, do you know what Ray of Light is really about? So I worked it out. So, yeah.
Ray of Light.
Ray of Light, like, never fucking heard it in my life.
The other one we do agree on is P.I. is Mr. Blonde. You know, I think they share the same kind of dance moves. But also, as Westy kind of alluded to, he's so fascinated by serial killers, I think. We all know he's like one bad Newcastle result away from whipping out a knife and going to town on someone, isn't he?
Yeah, and Newcastle have lost 6-1. Bam! Bam! Bam!
Bam, bam, bam.
Luke, I've actually got you down as Mr. Pink because, as we've established, you don't tip. So
yeah,
that
that's fair enough, actually. Yeah,
that absolutely makes sense. And I've got John as Mr. Orange, actually, purely because Mr. Orange obviously has the poster of the Silver Surfer in his apartment. I can imagine John has similar decorations, so I think he would be Mr. Orange. And then for myself, I've gone for Mr. Blue simply because I do have a reputation on nights out of getting drunk and then just wandering off, and people don't know where I've ended up.
Don't know where he's gone.
Don't know where he's gone.
Yeah, you only say 3 sentences, get pissed and leave.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So I'm Mr. Blue.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Well, we have similarities. Westy, you're obviously brown.
Well, obviously.
It's the theories.
Mr. Shit.
Obviously. And I have got John as orange for the same thing. He's a comic book fan, obviously. But also, I think he would be good as a copper. Very meticulous, straight as a die.
Yeah, so that's why I've gone as Pink. I think you'd just be better in that kind of role. Well, you know, it's similar.
Then we're going for P.I. Nice guy, Eddie.
Really?
Obviously. It's a tracksuit.
Tracksuit top, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously. Say no more.
And cowboy boots. Yeah, I take it back. He's not blonde. He's definitely a nice guy, Eddie.
Matt, I'm tagging you as Mr. Blonde.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Didn't see that coming.
A cool customer on the surface, but I think there's a fire bubbling underneath there. Definitely. You get pushed to the edge and you start blasting people away.
Yeah. On certain topics, I would.
There you go, you see.
Just blast them away with information, though.
Facts.
Yeah. All right, Brent.
Sessions.
Yeah. Sessions. More fact-based, yeah, than violence.
And me, Mr. White, because it's Harvey Keitel.
You can't give yourself Mr. White.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
absolutely ridiculous.
That's it.
Self-praise, no praise. I am the
star, the best actor.
Yeah, I'm the one in the middle. I've hold all it.
Put up the finance. So there, Sharif, I hope we've answered your question. Well, we certainly haven't given a definitive answer, but you know, fun nonetheless.
Yeah, just
take your pick.
Split the averages.
Yeah,
I'm definitely brown by the sound of it. So that's all.
Yeah.
So Keitel and Buscemi standout performers in the film, and we'll get to the rest of the cast as we go.
Lovely.
The middle.
Into the second act of the film, we've had an intro to Mr. Blonde. Then he, Pink and White attempt to beat out a confession from a chair-bound policeman before nice guy Eddie shows up to call the shots. We're looking at the scene after Nice Guy Pink go out to pick up the stones while Blondie stays to babysit Orange and the cop. Cue one of the most iconic scenes of the decade, not least for the controversy it sparked. Matt, what do you think of this scene?
I think it's incredible, and I think let's credit Kirk Baltier, who plays Marvin Nash, the cop in the chair, because small role, but he is absolutely phenomenal. I think you feel every bit of sheer terror that is coming off this guy. You can like practically smell the sweat coming off him as he just begins to realise, I'm not getting out of this. And not only that, he's going to go out in the most horrific way imaginable. So I think from his perspective, this sequence is really, really heartrending. You completely feel for him. And just in general, I think it's just like one long, extended, steadily increased note of tension, and it just builds and builds. But the thing that makes it really scary is how calm Mr. Blonde is about it all. He's not bouncing off the walls, he's not raving, he's not ranting, he's not yelling. He's just so calm about it all, so softly spoken, so rational. Like he says, you know, it's amusing to me. That's the only reason he's doing it. The bit I find really uncomfortable to watch, and it shows how much contempt he has for Nash, is the way he keeps wiping his hand on him.
Total disrespect.
Yeah, and he's almost like offended by it, as if Nash has done that to him, when it's no, it's because you've been like smacking the shit out of him.
You've been slicing him up.
Yeah, exactly. So of course you're going to be covered in blood. So that's like really like inhuman touch, and I think it's just so chilling. And then you get to that actual ear cut, and I mean that's got to be a nod to Taxi Driver, isn't it? The way the camera just pans away.
Yeah. I always think of that shot.
Yeah, so horrific. Even the camera can't bear to look at it. But it's all just timed so perfectly. Like it's a fantastic touch. The way that blonde ambles out to get the gasoline, and the camera follows him, comes back in, and stuck in the middle with you is still playing perfectly in sync. You know,
it's
fantastic
great.
touch.
I love that.
As I say, it just keeps building and building. You know, the gasoline looks like it must really sting, you know, when it's going into his ear. You know, Nash, he's just so desperate to try to persuade him, and Blonde is just, you're all through, you're all done, not even giving him a second's thought. And just when you can't take any more, he's out of there, you know, bam, 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 bam. You think, thank fuck for that, because I could not watch any more of this scene. I think it's just fantastically well done. In retrospect, it's another one of those scenes in this film that just felt immediately iconic, like the opening in the restaurant, like the credit sequence. You watch this, you think, you know, are people going to be talking about this scene forever?
Instantly iconic. And this was the one scene that I remember hearing about and wanting to see before I was able to see it. I was like nervous coming into it, kind of the feeling I had when watching the scenes in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was like building. I know there was something bad going to happen, but I didn't quite know what yet.
Yeah.
So it really has that impact. But I think what this scene does really well is take us completely by surprise. Of course, you know, the torture is shocking, unexpected, and Christ knows where it's going to end up. I mean, you don't really know where it's going to lead to. Yeah. But what takes me by surprise is the fact that he gets blown away, and for a second I'm thinking, I don't know where that's coming from. Yeah. And then we find out that Orange is the rat. Just excellent stuff, excellent storytelling, and I didn't see that coming. And I like that this isn't gradually revealed through the flashbacks and backstory. We do get that after this, but it's just bang, blown away. And there's a little bit of sick satisfaction there for me that Blonde is out of there because the cop didn't deserve any of this at all. Great makeup job as well.
Oh, yeah.
On the ear and the cuts. Oh, on a small budget. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, terrific.
Westy, what do you think of this scene?
I think it's fantastic. It's just one that totally sticks in your head. You think of Reservoir Dogs, you think of this scene.
Yeah,
you
totally.
Look at this is why Michael Madsen was cast. You can see it. The original song choice as well was going to be Ballroom Blitz by Sweet.
Really?
Imagine if it was Ballroom Blitz.
He'd have been flying about all over the place.
Them up all over the place. But this one has got a little bit more of more of a groove to it, so it seems even more. It's even more creepy that it's got a really upbeat song, and it's like it's supposed to make you feel happy. It's Steelers Will, so it's supposed to make you feel, you know, a little bit more joyous. And there's jangly acoustic guitars, and then he talks into the ear. I find that so
is funny.
I'm so guilty laughing at it, but it's funny, and he just throws it away, and it's brilliant. You know for a fact that he's justified this in his head. He's a cop; he can do whatever he wants to. He doesn't think about his actions, and I think that's the brilliant thing about going out and getting the petrol and bringing it back. And his plan is to set fire to this guy, but you can't do that. He hasn't thought it through. No. There's no clean resolution with that. So you know his state of mind in the heist. There's no consequences for this guy. He gets away with it. He just does it. He does what he needs to do in that moment, and he constantly lives in that moment. Doesn't think about the past. Doesn't think about the future. He's in that moment, and it is terrifying. And I know the guy who played the cop auditioned like 4 times for the role, absolutely dying to get in there. But you see, again, you need that kind of energy. He brings the opposite energy than Madsen brings.
Yeah.
This is probably up there in my favourite, it would be top 20 shots easily in the history of cinema, when Orange wakes up and he shoots him, and it cuts to Orange shooting.
Yeah.
And that camera just moves round, and it waits, and it's slow, and it's steady, and it waits, and it waits, and it waits. And as it just finishes, Blonde's in the shot and drops to the floor. Just as it comes round, so you know he's out of there. That is someone who really loves cinema and knows how powerful a camera shot can be and a camera move can be, because it's resolution for the audience. It's a full stop. It's an ending. And he waits just to fall to the floor, and then you get that sound design as well. Boom. He's done.
Yeah.
It's incredibly well written, incredibly well acted. One of my favourite scenes, probably of all time.
Michael Madsen really wanted to play Mr. Pink when they were doing the auditions. And he auditioned and he went through all the scenes with Tarantino, and he did a great job, he thought.
Yeah.
Tarantino said to him after he'd all said and done, just looked him dead in the eye and said, "You're not Mr. Pink, you're Mr. Blonde, or you're not in my movie."
Amazing.
But Madsen was really nervous about doing this dance, and in the script it said Mr. Blonde maniacally dances around, so no stage directions. And he thought to himself, well, what the fuck does that mean? Like Mick Jagger, or what? What the fuck am I going to do? Imagine him breaking into Jagger. I'd love that.
Nice guy Eddie coming in, and they're just like Bowie and Jagger off dancing in the street.
He didn't even practice to get set up for this scene, and he's thinking, fuck, what am I going to do? And then the music kicks in. And in the far reaches of his mind, he thinks about this Jimmy Cagney film that he saw years ago, and he did this little jig thing. So Madsen just went with it, and they did about 4 takes, and the moment when he breaks into the dance, the first take, that's what we see on screen.
Oh, amazing. It's almost like an irony that
just
the
a
dance,
shuffle,
just to move around. He's almost taunting him. It's just taking the piss, and it works really well that way.
QT got loads of walkouts during the scene when he was touting it around the festival circuit, and he counted the most was 33. And he got to the Sitges Horror Festival in Spain, and he thought, well, this is my audience. There's nobody going to walk out. Especially they've just screened Peter Jackson's Brain Dead. So
really?
it's gonna be fine.
Killing people with a lawnmower straight into this.
And then 5 people walked out, and one of which was Wes Craven. Unbelievable. In an interview, Craven said, when I was out in the lobby, this kid came pounding out from the shadows at me, and he said, "You're Wes Craven, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "And you're leaving because you can't take it?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I've just scared Wes Craven, fucking hell."
Really Tarantino, that, isn't it?
Yeah. It didn't get a home video certificate in the UK until 1995 because of this scene.
Yeah.
I think what makes the impact is Nash, beforehand, he's squirming around in his chair and he's weeping and he's begging for his life, basically. And I think it's the age-old, it's what you don't see. Yeah. Like we've said when we discussed Seven, and like we said when we discussed Texas Chainsaw, those films do a really great job of leaving it up to your imagination to fill in the blanks. And you fill it in with these horrendous images you don't see, and that's exactly the same in this film. And I think it's helped by what happens before with the slashing of his face, and then what happens after when he's covered in fuel and the camera circling the action. We're in the thick of it as well. Yeah, perfectly planted in your mind's eye.
Yeah.
What about Michael Madsen in the film generally? How do you feel about his performance?
I think he does really well in the film. I love that you see his loyalty, and I love his flashback sequence. I love that little wrestle he does with Chris Penn in the office, where they're just like a couple of brothers. It's funny, though, isn't it?
Bit weird.
Well, it is a bit weird. You can see he's just a ticking time bomb that doesn't do anything, and then when he needs to do something, he just explodes into it, just without remorse, just without thought. He's just this machine, and I think that's why Joe gets him on board, because he's dependable, and he's got loyalty, but he's just fucking crazy, and you can kind of see that with Madsen's performance. It's just behind the eyes.
I think there are layers there which makes him difficult to read, unlike the other characters, but you don't necessarily know what's going down. He's kind of deep and brooding.
His performance in this, it always strikes me, is the type of performance of someone who knows that they're probably never ever going to get a character as good as this again, so they're going to make the most of it. No disrespect to him, but I don't think anyone who would say Madsen is a great actor. It's not like the likes of like Scorsese or Spielberg who've come like knocking on his door over the years. So I think he's read this and he's gone, right, this is the one. This is quite possibly going to be the only one I'll ever be remembered for. So he just savours like every bit of dialogue, every scene he's given. And because of that, it's a weird thing to say, but he kind of gives the character a lot of joy just because he puts so much into it. And he's just so, like, alive and electric in every scene. And that's why Blonde, I think, is such an enticing but dangerous character, because of this energy that Madsen brings. He just radiates menace and he radiates violence. And I did say that, you know, Buscemi gives my favourite performance in the film, and he does. But I think in Madsen's favour, I think on the page, Mr. Blonde is a fairly two-dimensional psycho. Everyone else has much more depth and layers to work with, and he doesn't. So in a way, he kind of gives the most in terms of performance, because he has to bring the most, because there's not as much on the page for him to work with. So I think he really deserves credit for that. And I think he's ended up creating just one of the all-time great psychos in cinema. You know, once you see him in this, even if you never see Madsen in anything again, or you never remember another Michael Madsen performance, you're never ever going to forget Mr. Blonde. And that's entirely down to Madsen.
Yeah.
Lovely. You mentioned Kirk Boltz, Matt, the guy who plays Marvin Nash, the cop.
Yeah.
He asked Madsen for some help prepping this scene. He wanted to do some research. Yeah. So, unbeknown to Boltz, Madsen woke him up at the crack of dawn, dragged him into the trunk of his car, locked it, and drove around downtown LA with all its bumpy roads. And he even stopped off at a Taco Bell for a pit stop.
Drove down the back alley with loads of potholes in, didn't he?
Yeah.
What an absolute bastard.
Because that's Madsen's own car as well, isn't it? In the film?
It is. Yeah, that's right.
It is. Yeah, they couldn't afford it.
Boltz ad-libbed this small but really powerful line when he's being tortured. I've got a kid at home. Maybe to get his own back, because this resonated with Madsen, whose son was 18 months old at the time, and he had to take some time out to compose himself. And this takes in the final cut, and it's quite loud in the mix. I'm sure you'll have heard it. You can hear somebody in the background saying, "Oh, no, no."
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
If you listen back to it or you watch back to it, you will pick it up. Right. It's really loud in the mix.
Right, okay.
QT said about this scene, it wouldn't be as disturbing without the song, because you hear the guitar strain, you get into it, you tap in your toe, and you're enjoying Michael Madsen doing his thing, doing his dance, and then, boom, it's too late. You're a co-conspirator.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
He does.
Absolutely.
We're back to back as we're looking at the segment directly after this scene that gives us a backstory to Mr. Orange. Matt, do you want to take her away?
I have to be honest, it is my least favourite part of the film.
Okay.
Where it builds up his backstory as a cop, and I particularly don't get along with these scenes with Holdaway, where he's like rehearsing his backstory. And I do wonder what Tarantino thinks of these scenes now, like looking back as a much more experienced director, because these scenes are the ones that stick out for me as ones that definitely come from a first-time director.
Right.
Someone who's maybe just a little bit too fond of their own words and doesn't like to cut stuff out, or maybe hasn't quite worked out how to make a scene work. It just doesn't have the same feel as the rest of the film for me. It doesn't have the same vibe. It always feels like he's just kind of shoehorned it in a little bit. And also, I think by the time you see Orange kill Mr. Blonde, I just want that story to continue. And I think, you know what, I don't want another flashback. And I know I do need it, because I do need to find out about Mr. Orange getting into that crew. But honestly, I want to stick with the kind of stuff that's happening in the present day.
Okay.
It does have one bit I really like, though, which is that when he is giving his story to Joe into Mr. White, and he makes up that story, and you get that kind of flashback to him going into the bathroom with the drugs, and the police are there. And the thing I like about that is it is actually really tense, but it's completely fictional. It didn't happen at all.
Yeah.
And you kind of forget about it. You're like, oh, fucking hell, he might get caught. And you're like, well, no, he clearly isn't going to get caught because it didn't happen. So I do really like that, but it just feels a little shoehorned in for me. It's definitely me least favourite part of the film.
Right.
I do like that bit in the bathroom where he's telling the story to Joe and Mr. White, and then it flips and the camera's circling him, and he's talking to the police in the bathroom, telling them that story. That's really, really clever, that. I really like that bit.
Excellent. Yeah, that cop's great in the bathroom. Really, buddy, I'm going to shoot you in the face. I love that guy. They are just such cartoonish cop characters. Doesn't they got the dog there, and the dog starts barking, and it's silently barking, and when he puts his finger against the hand dryer, he does like a shape of a gun, as if he's kind of like...
Oh, how many times have you used a public hand dryer and done that?
Loads. And it's when he,
loads.
When he goes out to meet them as well, when he's in his apartment. And that apartment, I don't know if you know, was built on top of the mortuary set that they got. And it was made to look more like an apartment.
Brilliant.
But he shuts the door when he's going to go back out and he thinks to himself, right, I need to psych myself up here, and he shuts his front door exactly the same as like a shape of a gun.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
And then talks in the mirror again. So there's all this kind of foreshadowing that works in it. But I agree with Matt. I think it is the weakest part of the film. Not meaning it's bad. It's just because the rest of the film's so fucking good and so well paced and so believable. I just think this is a bit easy for him to get into this crew telling a story about just some dope in a bag.
The commode.
And the commode story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I do love about this sequence is two things. One is the editing from when he starts the commode story and it goes to different locations, and the editing just gets tighter as he tells the story, and it just gets sharper, and he gets more refined with his story, and he's in front of the graffiti and he tells that part of the story, and then it cuts when he's like, motherfucker, I'm trying to watch The Lost Boys. And it just gives that little bit of spiel, and then it cuts, and then he's, he's in the restaurant with them, and he's talking to them, and now he's delivering exactly what we've seen, but we know how refined it is. So I think Tim Roth's performance in that is absolutely brilliant. And the second thing I like about it is when he first walks into the diner, my hair was like that from 1992 to 1997.
2007, more like.
I fucking wish. Bit thin now. But from 92, 97, that is exactly what my hair looked like. And every time I watch it, I go, Jesus Christ, that's like every school photograph I had taken. I think us talking about this film now is that it came out in 95 over here, so we've seen it God knows how many times. So it's easy to say this bit is a bit thin, but if you watch this for the first time, it's probably just exactly what's needed to carry that part of the character, I think.
I think it comes under scrutiny when you get some rewatches, particularly this sequence, and I'm with you fellas. He gets into that crew very, very easily, without any questions asked, really. I think Orange is the most Quentin Tarantino-like character in the film. Yeah. Like Clarence in True Romance, he's quite cool but a little bit geeky with it as well. He references comic books. He says Joe looks like Thing from the Fantastic Four. Yeah. And he really does.
He does. He also looks like the Bulldog from Tom and Jerry. Spike.
Looks like that guy as well. And Orange has got posters of Silver Surfer on his wall in his apartment. So that's Tarantino through and through. What I really like about this segment is that the film's non-linear anyway, and this segment is a flashback, so we're going back, but then there's even a flashback in this segment when we're being told about the commode story. I really like that part of it, and I do like the moment in the bathroom. Yeah. Like you've been saying, the dog's barking in slow-mo, and you're thinking, you're right, shit, is he going to get out of here alive? But it's just a story. Yeah. What do you think about Tim Roth in the film generally, not just this scene, but as Mr. Orange?
I think he holds his weight. I think he's refreshing in the role. I think his accent's really good. Like, you wouldn't think he was British for a second. But he holds up against everybody else. I think the scenes with him and Harvey Keitel, especially when they're kind of in the car and he's talking through like who's going to do what in the heist, and that gives you even more backstory to what happens. I think they're really good. Their chemistry's really good. You've got to buy the fact that Mr. White really cares about this guy, and I think he is a guy that you care about, but at the same time, Roth plays it with his inexperience, I think. He doesn't play it with too much confidence. He's got this cockiness to it, and I think that really, really works. It's a really good performance, I think. Tim Roth's a really underrated actor.
Oh, I'm going to have to go against you here, Westy.
Don't worry about it.
I do like Tim Roth, and I think it's all because of this film, because I really like this film. I've got it in my heart. But I don't think he's fantastic generally, and I don't think that's any surprise to me that he hasn't gone on to the heights of Buscemi and being like a really well-respected actor. Right. And the main thing I don't like is the accent.
Okay.
I don't think it's great when he gets shot and he's freaking out, and he seems to be a little short-tongued for some reason. And when he's telling the commode story in front of that graffiti wall, his accent is just all over the place for me.
Right.
I can hear some Cockney in there for sure. I feel like he hams it up a little bit in the warehouse, flailing all over the place. I'm a little bit, if I'm watching that with somebody new, I'd be a little bit embarrassed. The way he's acting when he's shot, I mean...
Apologising for him.
I'm sorry about this.
I'm sorry about Tim here. He's totally...
Listen, I'm sorry about this.
He has been shot in the stomach, but he's taking the piss now.
I'm going to apologise on his behalf.
Yeah.
If he was here, he would apologise in person.
It's the second most painful place to be shot, but he's taking the piss.
I mean, I've never been shot, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be behaving like this. Act accordingly.
That's a confident statement, that, like.
That is that.
Pretty
that's a
sure.
bold thing to say, that, Luke.
He hired a dialect coach to help him with his LA accent. Didn't work. And
I
she
think
was
it
really,
did. I think it did.
she was really hard on Roth, on his ass all the time. So he suggested that she play the woman in the car who shoots him and then he blows her
Oh,
away.
nice, right, okay.
I am with you on this, Luke.
Fine,
I think it is bound up
Yeah.
with it being my least favourite part of the film, but I don't think he's great. I think he's good. I think he's fine, but a lot of the issues that you have, I have. I don't find his American accent particularly convincing. And compared to everyone else, I feel his performance is a bit theatrical. Like particularly when he's rehearsing the story and he's given the story and he's got to make the story really convincing. I personally wouldn't find it convincing. It feels a bit over-rehearsed to me. And he just doesn't seem to fit in terms of style of acting with everyone else. Everyone else feels really grounded and really realistic. And I don't really get that from Roth. But I'm not saying he's bad. And there are two really good bits that he does do, but I think it's quite telling that these bits don't involve dialogue. And it's the expression on his face when he sees White kill the two cops. And he's just devastated, but he's got to hold it all in.
Yeah.
And then just after that, when he kills the woman civilian, and he's like, oh, fuck. He's just killed a woman in this. And you can see again, he's just devastated by that.
He just gets picked up, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
He can't even dwell on it because he has to be rushed off. So, like, those bits are really good, but it is pretty much kind of every little bit of dialogue he has. It just doesn't ring true for me.
You just said the two bits you love when he's not speaking.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I love it when he's not talking.
I was trying to dance around that a bit, but basically, yeah, when he's not talking, he's absolutely fine.
Fantastic.
That line that he's got that you said, Westy, I'm trying to watch the fucking Last Boys.
Oh,
he's
it's
all
dreadful.
over the place.
Yeah. I think he's given the most kind of overwritten dialogue in a sense. That whole rehearsal, it's definitely something that I think Tarantino loves the idea of that scene in this backstory, so he's just going to put it in there, but I just don't think it quite works, and I don't think Roth is good enough to make it work.
Shame.
Harsh.
Shame.
Slammed.
Yeah.
Roth, slammed.
Rough.
Yep.
Bam. Bam. Bam.
A strange casting process for Roth. He refused to read for any roles, point blank. Just said no to any auditions. QT actually said that he was, quotes, shit at reading.
Much like this.
Well, see, there we go.
But he was looking for an actor with a bit of pedigree to bring a bit of class to the film. And he was aware of Roth's background in kind of art house movies like Vincent and Theo from 1990. So Tarantino decided to get him, quotes, shit-faced.
Yeah.
That's British slang for drunk for our overseas listeners.
Use it at your own will. Shit-faced.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
And he was able to lock him down to some line readings while he was drunk, so despite being under the influence, it did convince Tarantino that he was the man.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, bloody and brutal, the second act pulls no punches.
Nope.
The crew.
There's only one place to start on the crew for Reservoir Dogs. Obviously, that's Tarantino again as the writer.
Surely.
Renowned film critic Elvis Mitchell called Tarantino's writing part Robert Towne, part Chester Himes, and part Patricia Highsmith. Westy, what do you think of the writing?
Well, I mean, it's fucking flawless, isn't it? Let's be honest. To a certain point, I mean, to get Keitel on board, he's read it. Everyone who reads it wants to be in it.
Yeah.
To the fact that James Woods fired his agent because he wasn't in it. Like, this script would have been absolutely electric, much like his other scripts were. It must have been such a fruitful experience just reading this page after page after page. And the fact that it's so non-linear as well, and it takes you flashbacks and it takes you forward, but it's so well constructed. It just feels like a solid piece of work. It's great. And it took him 3.5 weeks. I mean,
I know, crazy.
Just his dialogue as well. Like, how does he come up with this dialogue when you hear him talking and he isn't that cool? Like, it's not him. I don't know.
No.
I don't know where he gets it from. I don't know if he's got like. It seems like he's got 50 people like tied up somewhere, and he just kind of goes around and asks them all what's going to be a cool line. Give us a cool line, and then just like writes it down. Like, how's all of this come from one guy's brain? It's just ridiculously good. It's so full of ideas. It's so fresh at that time. It's so vibrant, and like I say, he's taken all of them cool influences, everything that he knows is good, and he's transferred it and he's made it his own in the screenplay. And he's got such confidence with that, and that's because of his love of cinema. He knows how powerful cinema is, and he trusts his instincts. If something moves him, or if something makes him feel good, or if something he sees something like City on Fire, and he sees them guys walking, and he just goes, I'm doing that, but I'm doing it my way, because it's made him feel something, so he wants to transfer that to other people. And to read this at that time would have just been absolutely massive. 272 uses of the word fuck as well in the screenplay.
Which is quite tame. Quite honestly.
But it is quite tame for him.
Yeah. That non-linear structure that you talk of, obviously that's Tarantino's go-to, and I think it's really effective here. And I don't think it's ever confusing, but it slowly reveals itself.
Yeah.
I love that we don't get to see the bank heist, but I feel like I have seen it because it's talked about in such detail during the arguments between White, Blonde and Pink, like you two said earlier on.
Yeah.
It's in my head. I can picture Mr. Blonde going crazy and plugging the staff. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely in the writing for me.
Yeah.
And Tarantino has painted this really vivid picture in my head, and I can see that bank heist and I can see every little nuance of it.
Yeah, amazing.
I just think it's remarkable how apparent his voice was early on. Like, everything that he's become famous for is in this already. It's not like he discovered these things as he went on. Straight away, you've got, the snappy dialogue, you've got the pop culture references, the really obscure pop culture references as well.
Yeah.
But that everybody wants to know because it seems cool and everybody wants to get on board with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as soon as that diner scene ends, I want to look up what all those songs are they're talking about. Because apart from Madonna, I don't have a clue what any of them are. but they must be good to be talking about like that. Yeah. So you've got that. You've got the insults. You've got how creative he is with the swearing, which is really funny. But I think he's also written this one in particular very, very cleverly. He's written this as someone who knows even if he gets this made, he's not going to have a large budget. So he's not going to show you the heist for a start because he's not going to have the money to do that. That's why I put it in there to begin with, when he knows he can illustrate it, as you guys have said, just as well with the dialogue. So he's written 80% of this to take place in an abandoned warehouse because he knows that's going to be cheaper rather than building some elaborate set that's not going to bring anything extra to the film. So why do that? And because he's doing that, because he's writing it in that really clever way, it gives him the room to work on everything else that's going to make this stand out. So that's why the dialogue shines. That's why the plot itself is so involving. That's why the characters are so good, because he's clever enough to know if this is a success and I get money, that's when I'm going to do my bigger films. That's when I'm going to do the really ambitious stuff. But now I'm just going to focus on the stuff I know I can do and do it really, really well. So it's a really clever screenplay.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, you both mentioned the dialogue and just a huge breath of fresh air in the industry.
Yeah.
These pop culture references that everybody was hip to after Tarantino had made this and made Pulp Fiction. You got a favourite line, Matt?
Yeah, I'm going for Mr. Blonde saying to Mr. White, are you going to bark all day, little doggy, or are you going to bite?
Yes.
Partly because it's just that, we mentioned Madsen's delivery already, how laid back it is, how dry he is. But also I just think we've all been in that kind of situation where two people are having a heated argument, could be two friends, and one of them says something that goes over the line. And you just think, shit. This is where it's going to kick off.
You turn into Mr. Pink.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys.
You're rolling your eyes like, guys. Brilliant. It's such a good, tough guy bit of dialogue, but no swearing in it, which is quite unusual, I think, for Tarantino. Yeah, that line, I love it.
Amazing. Westy?
Yeah, mine's Mr. White when he says in the diner at the start. It feels like it's almost like a John Wayne kind of line when he says, you shoot me in a dream, you better wake up and apologise.
Yeah.
That is that's a brilliant, brilliant line, that. And then he actually just shoots him. Everyone's there. You know, that's one of them, it's a standout of that whole sequence. You know that line was probably, the whole sequence is based around that line.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm going for one that was probably one of the first lines that I heard before I'd seen the film, and because it's on the soundtrack. It's Mr. White talking to Mr. Orange. He says, the manager knows better than to fuck around, so if you get one that's giving you static, he probably thinks it's a real cowboy, so you've got to break that son of a bitch in two. Just classic QT, super cool dialogue.
Yeah.
Giving somebody static was just, well, that's amazing. That sounds amazing to me.
Yeah. Break that son of a bitch in two. I thought you were going to say it was on the soundtrack, so it would be in Stephen Wright saying Behemoth, which is amazing. Behemoth. My favourite thing ever.
As with most Tarantino films, Are we calling it a Tarantino verse? Is that a thing, or have we coined that? Or
I don't think we've coined it, but I'll definitely go along with it. Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, I think
Cool.
it's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Reservoir Dogs references some of his future films. The wolf is on the phone at Jimmy's. He says, "You're a good man, Joe." That could be Joe from this film.
Yeah.
And obviously, Mr. Whitey's in Joe's office. Alabama, hell of a woman, good little thief.
Yeah.
Mentioned Big Kahuna Burger. On the radio, there's an ad for Jackrabbit Slims.
Yep.
Very nice. And Joe asked Mr. White about somebody named Marcellus. Almost certainly Marcellus Wallace, that.
Yeah.
And finally, Vic Vega is Vincent Vega's brother. Vincent, obviously, Travolta in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, brilliant.
He had actually had an idea for a spin-off of these two brothers. Michael Madsen said, I'd be Vic Vega's twin brother, and John Travolta would be Vincent's twin brother. I don't know why he's been so convoluted there. Why didn't you just say Vic and Vincent were twin brothers?
And why has he got to say twin? Just put brothers in there. They don't have to be twins. They don't look anything alike.
And he says, we're both on a flight from LA, having just been released from prison, and neither one of us knows that we're the twin of the other one, and we're both on our way back to LA to avenge the death of our brother. Sound good to you?
I would like to have seen the Vega Brothers movie. I think that would have been great, but it would have been great at about 98 or something like that. Now it's
not
gone.
now.
It's
Forget about it.
Totally gone.
What do you think about Tarantino's performance in the film? Obviously, he loves to slip himself in his films cameo, but he's got a bigger part here.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely the best he's been in one of his own films, but you can take that however you want.
Backhanded that.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Is that it?
Oh, yeah. That's it. Yeah. It merits no more discussion.
Yeah, it's not his worst performance.
No, it isn't.
No, it's not.
I mean, he's been better, but it feels like someone's little brother who comes along and hangs out with the lads.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to be cool, and he's trying to be hip, and he's trying to have these lines, and he's just trying to mix in with everyone else. And it's everyone in the opening sequence when they're walking, and it goes to all the guys, and they look cool. And then it goes to Tarantino with his horrible little beardy thing, and he's just like smug as fuck, and he's like, this is I'm in this. There's my name. I'm Quentin Tarantino. Yeah.
I think his delivery of the Madonna speech is good.
Yeah, that is good.
I think that's all right. Well, I mean, for Tarantino. But his line reading in the Alias scene is terrible when he says, Mr. Brown sounds like Mr. Shit. It's awful. I really don't like it.
Not really a hard line to deliver either, is it really?
It shouldn't be.
It's the only performance I've ever seen where someone gets shot in the head and you don't believe it.
Yeah, that bit doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you just go, that's makeup. He's just trying to tell, oh shit.
Next up, we get to talk about the soundtrack for the film.
All right.
Yeah. Westy, what do you think of this soundtrack?
I love it. I love all of his soundtracks. I think this is a really strong element of the film, and I think it ties everything together. I think there's some bits in here that, again, like his dialogue, the taste he's got for cinema and for music, for entertainment, for anything, and he's got such patience where he'll listen to stuff, or he'll watch things that no one else has got the patience to watch, or he'll listen to albums that no one else has got the patience to check out to express himself. And I think he expresses himself really, really well, and he's got the balls to do it because he knows it's cool and he knows it works. And having Stephen Wright on there just really works as well. K. Billy's super sounds of the 70s. There's no way I would turn that radio station off if it existed.
That's amazing.
The money going towards the soundtrack was on Steelers Wheel, right? Was to get that song Stuck in the Middle with You.
That was the only one he wanted.
That was the only one he wanted. So anything else will work on top of that. So they managed to get that by striking a deal to make an album, a soundtrack record. So they actually made a record as well as a film. So he's not only smashing his debut film, he's also smashing like his debut album of like his mixtape.
Yeah.
Nobody had an idea. Nobody had a fucking clue who the 5, 6, 7, 8s were. And he's in a shop in Japan and he hears them and he's like, that's it, boom. He just knows. He knows what's going to work. I think it's absolutely unreal. And the only person who could come close, and I would say they're on a par, is Quentin Tarantino, Marty Scorsese. That's it. And I've got a question for both of you guys. If you could have somebody's record collection, but you can only have Scorsese's or Tarantino's record collection, the whole collection, whose would you have?
Obviously Scorsese's.
You go Scorsese?
Obviously.
Right, okay.
Because Scorsese picks like the Stones and Cream and the Ronettes, and I know they've done a million more better, as good songs as the ones on his soundtracks. I can't imagine Urge Overkill's got too many great tracks.
Scorsese's collection just sounds like your collection, so you just keep having the same shit. Get something different, you might be like, oh, the 5, 6, 7, 8.
No, I'd go with Tarantino just because I think I'd find more like hidden gems in there.
Yeah.
Stuff that I just never heard of.
Yeah.
It would take you far too long to get to those gems. You'd be thinking, fuck this. Stick the Stones on.
Give me Shelter 3 times.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Very similar to you, Westy. I think Tarantino's soundtracks are up there with Scorsese. They're woven into the fabric of the film.
Yeah.
And the difference being that Scorsese uses those acts, Van Morrison, the Stones, Tarantino uses the Grassroots and George Baker selection. Mm-hmm. So they're largely unknown gems that have been given like a second life by Tarantino and are so intrinsically linked to his films. Those songs come on, you think of that film.
Yeah.
The soundtrack meant so much to me in the early 90s. I listened to it endlessly, and even before I'd seen the film, so those iconic lines of dialogue were just etched in there and made the film even more tantalising. The fact that it was banned over here as well was just agonising. I needed to see it.
Yeah, I'll struggle to think of any other film where I'm watching it and the soundtrack's playing, and I get the feeling that the characters are listening to the music. I think so many films just put them over the top. You never really feel that the characters are listening to the music choices, whereas here, I think they absolutely are. And the whole soundtrack is just a peek in a Tarantino's head, isn't it? You can imagine he's absolutely the type of guy who, he already has like hundreds of mixtapes probably. He already has like huge lists of obscure like girl bands from the 60s who he wants to use, and Japanese imports and all that type of stuff. So when he's constructed this world, it's just another avenue for him to put his own personality into it. These songs in particular, the fact that they're also upbeat, they're also poppy, that just contrast completely to what we're seeing on screen.
Tarantino said he came up with the idea of this Sounds of the 70s thing because there are always these radio stations in LA that have these special weekends like Motown or the Beatles. He said he wanted to go for 70s bubblegum sound because it reminded him of the songs that were around when he grew up. He said the sugariness of it, the catchiness of it, really lightens up a rough, rude film.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, isn't it? I mean, he takes stuff that isn't really cool and makes it cool. Like, the fact that it ends, Mr. White gets shot, he shoots Mr. Orange, I'm gonna fucking blow you away! Right? And it's just, he leaves the frame. There's that amount of time that it holds on that doorway, and then Harry Nilsson, Coconut.
Yeah,
what
Coconut.
Yeah. Like, you'd listen to that a million times and go, right, I'm putting this over the end credits of me really cool heist movie, and you're like, nah, that's not, there's no way in 100 years that's going to work, and it fucking does.
I really don't know if it does. Doctor!
It's cool to like Harry Nilsson, it's cool to like Coconut. I think so anyway.
I like Harry Nilsson, don't like that song.
Come on, I'm putting it out there. What would you put on the end?
I don't know, Simon and Garfunkel?
Bridge over troubled water or something. The Boxer. Doodle.
Da, da, da. Matt, have you got a favourite track in there?
Yeah, my favourite track is Blue Swede and Hooked on a Feeling.
Oh,
yeah.
That is huge, isn't it? That's so loud
massive,
in the mix when it comes on.
Yeah.
Ooga, ooga.
Yeah, that chanting at the beginning. And it's just that really poppy, upbeat song contrasted to the people that it's soundtracking, these violent criminals. And the only other film I've seen this used in is Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think it's quite funny that the only other film is like a big Marvel film in Tarantino's ultra-violent debut.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I'm going to go for I Gotcha by Joe Tex. That you got away from me, didn't you? I fucking love it. What a fucking tune that is. And the way it's used, and I'm a sucker for, drop out all the instrumentation and just put that beat in there. And him just like talking over the top of it. It's cool as fuck anyway. But I listened to that song and I listened to the soundtrack, much like you, Luke, before the film came out, and I thought, this is going to be some scene where this is used. It's going to be fucking huge. And it just intercuts between Nice Guy Eddie talking on the phone to them beating up the cop. But you don't really get any of that drop out with that drum beat, not that really hooky bit. It's just, well, I got you. It's in, and they're just kicking them around. And then it cuts to Nice Guy Eddie's radio. So it goes diegetic to non-diegetic, and then it's on the soundtrack, and then it kind of switches between the two. It doesn't use that song for impact, even though it definitely could. They could ramp that up on the soundtrack and just make it feel totally different. I love that song anyway. I love Joe.
Amazing. It's a little obvious, but I'm going to have to go with Little Green Bag.
Well, of course.
Yeah, George Baker selection.
Definitely not
massive. Obviously not. This was just like the soundtrack of my teenage years, this song. absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it just meant everything to me. It really felt as though this film, this soundtrack, I was getting a little older. I felt more adult.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this film and this song personified that. Love it.
Amazing.
And I think amazing use in the film as well.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So armed with probably the most important screenplay and soundtrack of the decade, QT couldn't go wrong.
And he didn't?
The end.
The third act of the film takes us to the end of the first act of the film as our crew are gathered together and given aliases to hide their identities. Matt, what do you think of this scene?
The scene, I think the placing of it, like when it happens in this film, is interesting because obviously by now we know that some of these guys are dead. We know that Orange is a cop. We know the conflict that's gone on. We know who's really fallen out with who. So to have it here when they're all together as buddies before it all kicks off, it just gives a much more of a dramatic irony than it would at the beginning of the film. If you had this at the beginning of the film, it would be absolutely nothing. But putting it here, it would
totally
be completely throwaway. But here, once you've seen what's gone on, it just makes it all the more effective. And I also think it's a really funny scene. And I think after kind of like all the violence you've seen, it's a bit of a release because you need a bit of a laugh.
It's welcome light relief, isn't it?
Yeah, it is,
Yes,
definitely.
yeah, and I think that's what the scene gives you.
I love that there's some other guy on another job who's Mr. Purple.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah,
a great
that's
little
amazing.
detail. I love that.
Yeah.
This ain't no goddamn city council meeting.
Yeah. It's the way he delivers it as well, like, some of the guy on some of the job is Mr. Boyle.
The Purple.
You're Mr.
You're Mr. Pink.
Getting told off your granddad, isn't it?
I think there are some really great shots in this scene as well. The camera scans left to right and right to left on all of the crew while Joe's telling this story.
Yeah.
And it scans everybody apart from Orange, who it leaves till last and zooms right into his face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great stuff, that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting if this was actually as it is, but placed earlier in the film. And you get that zoom into Orange and you get that. Maybe it might have been a bit more intriguing, but I do love where he's put it here. You do need this. It's funny.
Yeah.
Buscemi's really funny in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
the dialogue's right. It's what you're thinking, and then it's spoken. It's like everyone's going to argue about who's Mr. Black, and that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah,
Like, everyone's
yeah.
like, "That's the coolest name. I want to be Mr. Black, Mr. White. You've got a cool sounding name, Mr. White. I'll be Mr. Purple. Trade. Nobody's trading. Shut the fuck up." You can kind of see that it's just. You can see why the heist didn't quite go right because you can see they're not all on the same page.
Yeah.
That they're not really taking it particularly seriously. That Joe has got these guys together and they don't work as a group, and he's put that at the end of the film when you already know that, and I think that's genius.
They're not team players, are they?
Nah, not at all.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, played by Lawrence Tierney, we haven't spoken about him yet, so this is our chance.
Yeah.
David Kerr of the New York Times said he was not so much an actor as a frightening force of nature.
I believe that.
Yeah, Westy, what do you think?
He reminds me of like Kurtz in Apocalypse Now. He's like really like angry granddad. Like if you're trying to like show your granddad how your Game Boy works, he's like, "What's this, a Game Boy?" And he says, "This isn't a boy," and he just doesn't understand anything, and he's just pissed off. "I don't want to play any games." You know, he's just that kind of guy where he's just completely devoid of any bullshit whatsoever. He's devoid of any humour whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I do think you can see that Tierney is struggling a bit with some of these lines. He does think it's overly complicated when it really isn't.
Yeah.
It's very straight down the line. And I know there's a really great bit when they say to White, it's like, "I need you cool, can you be cool?" Which comes off a scene with Tierney and Madsen, where Tarantino just shouted and they started losing it and they started bickering between these, like, "Lawrence, I need you cool, can you be cool?" And they actually put that in the script, which is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
So I think he's great, and I love the fact he references probably the highlight of his career, which is Dillinger, which came out in 1945, I think, where he played the part of John Dillinger, and he's like, "Yeah, he's dead as Dillinger." Is it like his career's over, and this is the last thing he's going to do? It would have just passed up Nice Guy Eddie, and he would have just moved on.
Yeah, brilliant. I like that he's basically just barking these names out when he's dishing them out. Mr. Blunt.
Mr. Blunt.
I think he's great. I mean, he brings so much authenticity to this role, doesn't he? Because as well as being an actor, famously, he had like quite a troubled life, got in trouble with the law quite a few times. So he knows that life and he brings that to it. But what I think is great is how much everybody does respect him, because you see everyone is just terrified of him. Quite frankly, even Mr. White knows not to push him too far. He is the only person in the film that Mr. Blonde shows any kind of deference to. No, he's the only person Mr. Blonde doesn't try to wind up or kill, basically. And that's just through, like, how, like, intimidating Teen is. But there's a great story where, because he did used to get in a lot of trouble in his youth, and apparently in the 1950s, he and Eddie Bunker got into an actual proper fist fight in some car park in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But Gordon the Bunker, Teeny didn't even remember it happening.
Yeah.
But that's all they held a grudge
Fantastic.
for all these years. And Tarantino puts him in the same film.
Yeah, brilliant.
No wonder Mr. Blue's dead. Tina's just killed him.
So yeah, he's great. He's authentic. He's intimidating. For fairly small role, I think he's one of these characters. You just don't forget him as soon as you see him.
Yeah, he's amazing. You fellas have mentioned it, but he'd been working in films since the 40s. He was in Dillinger, loads of roles, but he had built up this really bad reputation, and a lot of it was down to him being an alcoholic. He said that he threw away 7 different careers through drink alone.
Wow.
And his rap sheet, I mean, he's totally wild. It included loads of arrests for drunken behaviour, drunken brawling. This happened about 20 times. He assaulted police officers, he was stabbed in a bar brawl, and he was questioned by police for being present at an apparent suicide. And finally, sent to a mental hospital for being found, quotes, dishevelled in a church.
I mean, we can laugh about it now.
I have no idea what he was up to there.
Amazing.
Dishevelled.
He continued this bad behaviour on set, and it was just a constant thorn in Tarantino's side. Tarantino called him a directorial school on fire. He had a hard time with the dialogue, saying it was too convoluted, too repetitive, and we've got some audio here which we'll play of him messing up his lines, so here he comes.
Okay.
Somebody comes up with the finally, so fucking I fuck up. I fucked up. I'll keep going. Stop. You don't say anything about you. Anything but you. I'm up. It's because it's so fucking repetitive.
No.
I was no good. Fuck it.
You will do this one more time.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Fantastic, isn't it?
It's not that complicated.
Absolutely nailed on.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand it, like English. It's just words. Just read the words. You've been doing it your whole life.
That's your career, you're an actor.
Wasn't he on, like, didn't he have to break his parole to be in this film anyway?
Well, he shot at his nephew in a drunken rage during filming.
Yeah. What a fucking nightmare, but he's great in it. He's so good.
When Tarantino was talking to him between scenes, he would just be like face to face talking to him, and he would often just walk away from him mid-conversation without saying any words.
Brilliant.
And this happened in the last 20 minutes of shooting in the final week. And Tarantino grabbed his arm. Come back, Lawrence, I need to speak to you about this. And Teeny got so pissed off and shoved Tarantino back. And Tarantino, in an absolute rage, said, "Fuck you, you fat fuck, you're fucking fired, take your fat fucking ass off my fucking set."
Of course he did.
And they both left the set, and the crew broke out in applause. But like 20 minutes later, they had carried on, they apologised, big hugs and kisses.
Yeah. Brilliant.
But amazing story. He went out for drinks with Michael Madsen, and after quite a few, he went to the bathroom, and he'd been away a while. And Madsen heard honking cars outside. He looked out and saw Tierney, bottomless, in the middle of the road, pointing and shouting at passing cars.
Bottomless.
Pants down.
Dishevelled.
Having a whale of a time. Sounds like Oliver Reed.
Ain't there nothing I can take a said
After this sequence, we're taken back in time to the scene of the crime where things go badly wrong. Then it's classic Tarantino fare for the film's finale. Of course, it's a Mexican standoff. Matt, this scene?
Well, I think it's inevitable it was going to end like this, wasn't it? Nobody was going to be left standing or getting out alive at the end of this film. So I like how he kind of holds his nerve and doesn't really give a happy ending for anybody, even though you do come to like some of these people, even though you really shouldn't. But, you know, Tarantino knows how it should end. I like how he doesn't take it over the top. I think if this had ended up with a big convoluted shootout, it would have been ridiculous. So I like how kind of he's just boiled down to the absolute basics. However, I do think it's the one part of the film for me where I think you can maybe tell that we're working to a little bit of a time limit. It does feel a little bit like, oh, lads, you know what? We've only got like 45 minutes left to shoot, what we're going to do, should we just have them shoot each other at the same time and everyone fall down? Yeah, that'll do. That's all right. That'll work.
Right.
But what I really like about the scene, though, is how it contrasts everyone who has survived to this point to how we saw them at the beginning, because at the beginning they were funny, they were witty, you wanted to hang out with them, but by the end we can see they're all actually really like quite pathetic, they're petty, they're just quarrelling. We've seen that they're nothing more really than violent thugs, and ultimately the way they all die, it's pretty silly. And I don't mean that as a negative. Actually, I think Tarantino knows that it's actually pretty silly the way they've all gone out, and I think what he's doing is he's undercutting them. His characters, I think he's saying, you know what, these are not the people you thought they were at the beginning of the film. I think if anyone watches this and comes out and thinks, oh, all those guys, they were really cool, weren't they? Honestly, I think they've probably misread the film a little bit.
Yeah, they don't deserve a hero's death.
No, absolutely not. They go out like pretty ridiculously.
This has been planned all the way through. This is how Tarantino wanted to end this film. It comes straight out of City on Fire. It's in that.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same, pretty much. The Mexican standoff is one of them great cinematic tropes where it just
definitely
it shows there's no trust, but everyone is as powerful as each other, and everyone's then an individual at the end. There's no hierarchy. Everyone just has to make a decision, and because of their lifestyles, that's why they die that way. And I think it's fantastic. And the shine for me in this whole sequence is Chris Penn. I think he's just fantastic. From the moment he comes back to when he shoots the cop to when Orange gives his story about Blonde and he goes, so you're trying to tell me this very good friend of mine who did 4 years for my father.
Yeah, he's great.
Is just now out of the fucking blue. Want to rip us off? Why don't you tell me what really happened? You know, and then Joe comes in and he just gives that final line like, stop pointing that fucking gun at my dad. And then and I think that's such a powerful delivery of that line, but it just adds that gravitas to it. It's just that real theatrical punch in the air. He's great all the way through it, but in this scene especially, it just blows my fucking hair back. It's just amazing. Just really, really great performance. And I love it. I think it's a brilliant ending to a brilliant film. They haven't worked together once, and the only person who gets away is the person who's not involved in this squabble, and it's Pink. But he doesn't really get away because you hear the cops outside shout, get down on the floor. Get down
and there's gunfire, isn't there?
And there's gunfire, and then the cops come in.
I think this scene, like the iconography of this scene, the Mexican standoff is such, just visually, just looks amazing, looks really cool.
Yeah.
Tarantino knows that. I think the close-up on Mr. White's face when he finds out that Orange is the rat is pure pain that he's backed this person all the way, and you can see it's a great performance from Keitel.
When he points that gun at him as well, you can see, you don't know whereabouts he's pointing it, but you know it's like on his head or it's on his face. It's like he's definitely going to do it. It's really painful.
I know he needed to for the story and for the film to resolve, but Orange didn't need to do that. He could have just kept it to himself. Maybe he felt compassion. Maybe he felt complicit in everything.
But then it would have been wide open, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Needs to tie it up.
And I think Pink is hilarious in this. He's backing away when they've all got their guns up.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be fucking professionals.
Yeah. Even by the end, he's still trying to make that point.
Yeah.
He's so like proud of himself as a professional.
Yeah.
You mentioned about Chris Penn there, Westy. Matt, thoughts on Chris Penn?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Penn in this, the thing that really makes me laugh is that terrible tracksuit was his own. You know, he provided his own costume for this, which is just absolutely ludicrous. Yeah,
and he's got no top on underneath, but just like gaudy jewellery.
Hold on a second, what do you mean terrible? I think that's fucking outstanding. That's amazing. I'd wear one right now.
Like, in terms of performance, I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you guys on Chris Penn in this. I mean...
Really?
Yeah, I just think, look at who else is in this film. You know, Tim Roth, Tarantino used him again. Keitel, Tarantino used him again. Buscemi, Tarantino used him again. Madsen, Tarantino used him again a few times. And he never did with Penn, and I think that says a lot. I just think Nice Guy, he's probably like the worst character by far in the film. Because he doesn't even have like Mr. Blonde's charm to him. He's just horrible. And I think Penn is just, he just doesn't work for me.
This Mexican standoff, like Nice Guy goes down, but he doesn't have a gun pointed at him. There were T-shirts made at the time, Who Shot Nice Guy Eddie?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be White who shoots Joe, then turns around and shoots Nice Guy before he can fire one off. But the squib on Keitel's body went off that shade too soon, so he's going down as he fires and turns to get his second shot off, and it's not really in Nice Guy's direction.
Right.
But I think it's really good editing to mask it, because I'm not really, like, instantly I'm not asking that question, and Tarantino decided to leave it this way to make it ambiguous.
I don't think it's ambiguous at all. I think it's fairly obvious that he gets off the 2 shots, he gets off Joe, and then he does Nice Guy Eddie. I think it's fairly obvious to me. I don't think I've ever really questioned it to that degree. No, not ambiguous at all for me.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I've never found it frustrating or trying to work out who shot who. I always found it fairly clean, to be honest, to understand. Yeah.
I don't think he's got enough time to shoot 2 people when he's got a gun pointed at him. That's my only issue with it.
We'll find out when you get shot. See how easy it is.
I'll behave respectfully and not like Mr. Orange.
Of course you will. Shoot 3 people and go down silently.
With dignity.
With dignity.
So a classic story of crime doesn't pay, but told in a unique way by an enormous talent.
Of course.
Yep.
Reception and awards.
Reservoir Dogs' success was built by the word-of-mouth buzz around the festival circuit, where it was screened a full 10 months before general release. It wasn't a gargantuan success. On a budget of $1.3 million, it returned $3 million. Still pretty good for a debut indie flick as well.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
On Rotten Tomatoes, Reservoir Dogs has 92%, and on IMDb it's got 8.3 out of 10. Pretty high.
Pretty high.
Yep.
Yeah.
There
were some mixed comments at the time. The Wall Street Journal said, the only thing Mr. Tarantino spells out is violence.
All right, here we go.
Misunderstood.
Roger Ebert, our old pal, gave it 2.5 out of 4.
Bless him.
Yeah. And he said it was made on a low budget, but the part that needs work didn't cost money. It's the screenplay. Now that we know Quentin Tarantino can make a movie like Reservoir Dogs, it's time for him to move on and make a better one. Which he did, but I think Roger might have regretted those words in the years afterwards.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Swing and a miss, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know whose films I really love? Roger Ebert's films.
But Rolling Stone gave it 4 out of 4. Empire gave it 5 out of 5 and said it's the perfect debut movie, full stop. Okay. They spelled out the full stop. They didn't. I'm not just punctuating here.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Part of the quote. Okay.
In the years that followed, Sight and Sound placed Reservoir Dogs in their top 200 greatest films ever made. Empire rated it number 97 and voted it the greatest independent film of all time.
Right.
Not bad for a debut movie that was almost shot on the cheap in black and white with the director's buddies as the stars.
Yeah, totally different beast, that.
Yeah.
All the Right Movies ranking.
We've worked out who the rat is, who has the stones, and who's left alive. But what we haven't done is work out the score for Reservoir Dogs. So we're going to take care of that right now. Matt, what do you score Reservoir Dogs out of 10?
This is one where I'm a bit conflicted about it, because in my head I'm balancing how this film felt at the time to how I feel about it now, knowing what Tarantino would go on and do. And for me, he did make a few films better than this. I do probably prefer his later stuff, and I want to bear that in mind in case we do get to those films for classic episodes.
Okay.
But as a debut, it is incredible. It's remarkably confident in itself. It's incredibly entertaining. It's got great characters, memorable dialogue, some sequences that go from hilarious to incredibly tense. And to do all that in a debut is just really, really striking. But there are aspects of the film that I don't like. Couple of the performances I'm really not keen on. One particular sequence of the film I don't really like at all, and it's quite an important one. That kind of central relationship between White and Orange is one that I don't really buy all that much. So it's a film that I do go back to quite a bit, and I will always be happy to watch it, but it's not going to get the full marks for me. It does lose a few for those aspects. So putting it in the broader context of Tarantino's career, it gets an 8.5.
Wow. Okay, when you said it loses a few marks, I thought you were going to give it a 7.
Oh, no.
Panic in there, like.
What?
I'm being ridiculous about it.
Let's re-record that.
No, say what you meant to say, Matt.
Not what Luke tells you to say.
Matt can't be here at the moment, but he scored it as a 9.5. Westy, what about you?
I love this film. It was a huge influence on me when I first saw it. It felt like I was seeing something completely brand new, even though it's the rehash of maybe 20 different films that Tarantino's seen that I haven't. But it really made an impact on me, and it was just cool, and it was just accessible, and it was funny, and it was violent, And it just made sense, and it was just a pleasure to watch it. It still is. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen it. So many, but I still have such confidence. If anyone hasn't seen it, I've got such confidence to sit next to anybody who hasn't seen it and go, watch this. And they'll go, oh, yeah, right, that was fucking brilliant. It's impossible to dislike. It's impossible to say it's a bad film. It's impossible to ignore its impact it had, and its influence, and its confidence, and its vibrancy. And it's such a wonderful, wonderful film by such a hungry and young filmmaker, but at the same time it's so disciplined, it's so tight, it knows exactly what it wants to be. The whole Orange backstory on rewatches kind of brings it down a little bit. It does slow the pace a little bit, but it's an incredible film. Pulp Fiction for me is a slightly better film because it has a little bit more to it. It's more ambitious. There's more to get your teeth into, but that's not to say that this isn't fantastic. But this feels like just one of the stories from Pulp Fiction, and it's it's just drawn out a little bit further. But for the bits that do bring it down on rewatches, which is basically Orange's backstory, it loses half a point for that. So I'm going for 9.5.
Wow, 9.5, big scores.
Yep.
Do you want to rethink your score, Matt? Or
do you want to do what I tell you, Matt? Or you're not Mr. Purple. You're not 8.5. 8.5 is on a different podcast. This is a 9.5.
As I said, I was obsessed with this film like 25 years ago. If I was rating it then, it would be a 10 all day long, like you said, Matt. It's not a 10 now for me because it's not Tarantino's best film. That's Pulp Fiction for me.
Yeah.
You can see Tarantino's talent here, but it's not full throttle, and I don't think it's anywhere near as confident as Pulp Fiction.
No.
But I have nothing but admiration for the film and Tarantino's journey from nobody video store geek to the coolest man in Hollywood, like overnight.
Yeah.
Cinderella story. It's simple, well-worn plot, but it's all in Tarantino's dialogue and direction, obviously helped by a talented cast and crew as well. But I have a bit of problem with the way that the dialogue is delivered, and like I said, it's not Pulp Fiction, so therefore it's a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
As always, on Twitter, followers have been voting on Reservoir Dogs, and we've got some comments that I've picked out first of all.
Okay.
So, from Christopher Smith, at Oh That Chris Smith, he said, beautifully brutal in its simplicity, a robbery gone wrong, big money and big egos.
Nice.
Well written, and the performances are incredible, 10 out of 10. Unless you give me one more, then it's 11 out of 11.
10 out of 10 then.
10 out of 10 then.
That's fine. Leave it there. Don't overcomplicate things.
It's not Spinal Tap.
Adam Wareham at Adam Wareham said, it's good but suffers from comparisons to Cutie's later work. It's got great dialogue and looks stylish, but doesn't have the fun, pizzazz or confidence of Pulp Fiction. Agreed?
Yeah, I think he's on the money there.
Mm-hmm. And finally, Scotty Hammers at Fit for Footy said, 5. Give me Kubrick's The Killing over this any day.
5 out of 5.
Ooh, 5 out of 10.
I'd watch The Killing and then I'd watch this after it.
Yeah, it's very different.
There you go.
Of course.
10 out of
10. Bang. So a mixed bag of reviews there. With all the scores combined, Reservoir Dogs averaged a
8.
8.5.
8.5. Matt, you're on the money.
Oh, yes.
All right.
8.5 out of 10 on Twitter.
Well done, Matt. Oh, Westy, you were close. I was 0.5 off.
I wasn't.
8.5. Right, I'm leaving. I'll see you later. There's going to be a Mexican standoff here.
So with the Twitter score and ours combined, that gives Reservoir Dogs 35.5 out of 40. You can look at the leaderboard of all the films that we've covered so far on the podcast. Go to alltherightmovies.com/leaderboard. Again, to support what we're doing here and to hear more of us, you can sign up to Patreon. That's patreon.com/alltherightmovies. And a special shout out to our directors, chair tier patrons. They are Adam Cowie, Adam Yates, Cags Clough, Damien Lennox, Anna Randall, Andrea Barker Syed, Matt Lum, Graham Chater, Just Joe, Sharif Ahmed, Kenny Morrison, Hilton Thompson, Jamie Russell, Robert Shearer, Mike Riley, George Anderson, Paul Devine, Anthony Hodgson, Darryl Clough, Caroline Williams, Dean Jones, John O'Howie, Justin Walsh, Karim Helliwell, David Coates, James Ozzie Pugh, Brandon Galvin, Henning Pazunka, Richard Cordich, Craig Bourne, Justin Fellers, Sean Campbell, and I've just noticed that we've had a new patron just signed up.
Oh, this is exciting.
At the end of this list, a shout out to Maxim Shearer.
Lovely.
Nice one.
Welcome.
Maximum Shoes. Just signed up just for the shout out. Probably leave for tomorrow.
I imagine, yeah. We'll put this out. They'll be gone.
Hopefully not.
For all show notes, credits and references that we used in production of the podcast, you can visit alltherightmovies.com/podcast/reservoir-dogs. Join us next time on All the Right Movies when John, P.I. and Matt are peering into other people's apartments when they talk about a Hitchcock classic, Rear Window.
Yes. Very excited about that.
Can't wait.
It'll be a big one.
As always, on Twitter we are @right_movies, Instagram we are @all_the_right_movies. Search All the Right Movies on Facebook, and our website is alltherightmovies.com. Alright, ramblers, let's get rambling. See you soon, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.